Hello and welcome to the Masters of the Forge, fellow Skylords. In this series, we talk to members of the Skylords Reborn team about their duties, how they view the project, and what it's like to work on the game. If you want further details on the how and why of this series, check out the article of the first episode of this on the forums. As every time, we will structure the stream in several parts, going over our guests' relation to BattleForge, their function in the team, their outlook on the project, and of course, pre-submitted and chat questions. My guests today are Ladadoos and Zyna, both project lead who started out many years ago as most active developers, responsible for numerous features to make Skylords Reborn a much better experience than the original BattleForge. In October 2020, they followed as the original founders as new top-level administrators, just a few months before the end of the beta and the public release of Skylords Reborn. Besides their continued efforts in developing new tools and features, they also restructured the Skylords team and made it what it is today. So it has grown under their leadership to almost 50 members. It is an honor to have you both on. So welcome to the stream.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Hello, everyone.
Well, here we are, this time 2 guests. I hope we don't talk above each other all the time. We will try to do our best.
No, we're perfectly in sync. It'll be fine.
Like, you can basically think of Lada and me as the same person, so
Yeah.
It shouldn't be too complicated.
It's Ladadoos.
Oh,
Yeah, basically.
So we got a long list of questions, so we should get going, right?
Sure.
Let's go.
We start out with your both real-life contexts, and I was thinking that I always start with one of you both, and the other adds on to that, and then we switch up, and that's how I will try to structure everything. So we start with Hannah, of course. What country do you live in?
So I currently live in Germany, where I was also born, and I haven't really been outside of the country too much, aside from travels. And yeah, I like it here. It's been fun.
What about you, Lada?
I live in the Netherlands, but I guess a fun fact about me, I've also lived, as of now, half of my life in Portugal too, from when I was 2 to 14. But I'm Dutch and currently living in the Netherlands.
From 2 to 14?
Yes, I can speak Portuguese fluently. Although it's, because I don't speak it that much, I only speak it with my brother actually. He's also Dutch and also living in the Netherlands. But besides him, I don't speak the language anymore, so it's slowly deteriorating. But I still have a bit of it left.
Did you try some practice with ult?
Actually, no, we haven't. But it's always fun when you encounter someone that does speak it a bit, and we've exchanged some words here and there, but not full blown out conversations yet.
Oh, cool. So we go the switcheroos. This time to Lada first. How old are you, and how long are you with the Skylords team now?
So I am 24. Actually, turned 24 October 2nd, and I have been with Skylords Reborn for a very long time. I guess officially joined it 2018. But I've been part of it, already a few months to maybe a year, even prior to that. Not sure exactly when, but for many years already.
All right, and you, Zyna?
So I basically found the project roughly 8 years ago, then took another year for me to get closed beta access. Then I basically was a beta tester for the next 1.5 years, then a client developer with Lada for 2 years, and then since 2020 and April, May, roughly, we kind of started, doing real stuff, and then 6 months later, we became project leads. So yeah, I'm also in my real life 25 years old, and yeah, I will turn 26 this year as well. So 1 more month of being 25.
Ooh.
Ooh. Yeah, do you have your correct date of birth entered into the Skylords forum?
I probably do.
Yeah, we will all see then the day when to congratulate.
Let me check. Yeah, Dutch will probably
The-
congratulate me in the sub chats.
I was about to say Dutch will congratulate Anna promptly.
So Hannah, what's your field of occupation?
So my field of occupation is in artificial intelligence. I both work as a researcher and consultant, and it's kind of a mixed position. So I do basically 60% consulting work, which is also kind of more on the educational side, and I also do 40% just my PhD there. So yeah,
so how dangerous is it for us?
Well, at the moment, there are dangers already, right? But the real danger is yet to come. It depends on how it evolves, right? There's stuff like AGI kind of being talked about, right? Especially in areas like natural language processing now, with things like GPT-4 coming out and possible other things which also go in that sort of direction.
You will give us a warning, right?
Yes, I will not join our AI overlords if they come.
And what's your field of occupation?
Yeah.
Lada.
Yeah, so I am currently just working as a software engineer, and technically speaking, also a Scrum Master. I finished my master's in software engineering this year, and prior to that, I did computer science bachelor. Decided not to pursue any more in the field of research or PhD because, well, my experience with my master's wasn't that great, and I kind of just being a little more hands-on, and yeah, not wasn't too interested in having a PhD that would take at least 3 to 5 years more. Kind of just wanted to get to work.
I understand perfectly. So I got one question each for each separately, and the first one goes to Hannah. And it is, sure. What's up with all the name changes of Zyna, Hannah, Bahannas, Ganas?
They are great, no? You don't like them?
Why do you do that?
I mean, it's basically just kind of like switching up your shirt every once and then. Like, I don't change them up on official platforms, right? So, like, official platforms aside from Discord, to just keep it consistent there. But, like, on Discord, just having a new name every now and then just is a bit fun, basically. Also, just a bit role-playing with friends, right?
Oh, okay. All right. And the question for Lada is, what's the story behind the toast?
You know, that's a good question, actually, but there's not really much to it. I kind of just really like toast and sandwiches, and I was just at one point looking for a refreshing new profile picture, because prior to this I kind of had Spitfire for the longest time, and very many different like alterations of it, and yeah, I kind of wanted to do something a little more simple, easier on the eye, and I don't know, I thought the toast one was kind of cute and simple, so I just went with it. I kind of have this habit. Well, I didn't do it this time actually, but where I tried to make like different versions of the avatar for different seasons of the year, and because it's that simple, it's possible to make them myself, and then depending on the season, I change it up. I have one with a scarf, one with like sunglasses and stuff like that. So yeah, that's about it.
I mean, to be honest, that toast avatar is super cute.
Thank you. That was the main reason I kind of went with it. So I'm happy. Others think it's cute too.
Like, if you also pay attention to my avatars, like, I also always change those with some certain pattern. So, for example, the current avatar is inspired by the Minecraft character Rana. And, you know, then Ranas, Ganas. Ranas also means frog in Spanish. So.
Oh.
So there's always some sort of hidden trivia inside the names.
Yeah, we're getting into the deep layers.
Yeah.
Oh, that early into the stream. Usually that's reserved for the finish.
I'm so sorry.
So I think we start with Lada next, if I'm not wrong. When did you play first BattleForge, and what was your relationship with the game?
So I played BattleForge and it's when it was still under EA. I don't know when I exactly started playing it, but I remember playing it a lot. but I actually didn't play like the game that much in terms of PvP or PvE or PvP. I was one of those traders, so I actually spent most of my time. You could argue bartering people in chat with selling and trading cards. That's kind of my history in games. I also played another MMORPG and where I was also just trading. I don't know. I guess I like the aspect of that. And at one point, at one point you kind of just have all the cards, and that point kind of dies out. And then I kind of found it interesting to try just look at speedrunning. Not that I ever was a well-known speedrunner, but I kind of just liked seeing what other people did and just trying to do some one-player speedruns. But for the most part, I was just a trader, happily buying trading cards and building my relationship with people where I would do great trades with.
Cool. I'm known as a trader as well. I'm one of those bad boys, and
Yeah.
I have all cards for a long time, but I just keep going for nothing.
No, yeah.
You rip off people. Evil.
Yeah, I'm really evil. How about you, Hannah? When did you start to play?
So I found the game sometime in 2010, I think, when I was basically just looking for free-to-play game with friends. And then we started playing, and it was pretty fun. It was basically the first free-to-play game which kind of came out, right, from EA Games, as far as I know. And we kind of played that for a year, and I started getting more into PvP. And yeah, so it was mostly just me playing PvP and also more of a social thing with friends. So when the game kind of, I don't know, became a bit boring in 2011, I just kind of quit and switched to League, but basically to friends and as well, right? And then didn't really touch it anymore for like the next, I don't know, 2 years until it shut down. So yeah, I wasn't too attached to the original game.
So how did it feel like when the game shut down? You didn't care much because you didn't notice, right?
Well, I think I noticed, but I didn't care too much because I really wasn't playing it anymore. But I did always think that like a BattleForge private server or anything would probably be a cool thing because the game did have a certain pay-to-win aspect to it, which would have made the game better if it didn't have that, I think. So
How
I
about
didn't
you?
have much hope for the original BattleForge, but for Skylords Reborn, a bit more so.
Yeah. How about you, Lada?
Yeah, so I actually remember exactly whenever when they announced it was going to shut down. I was like grinding Convoy solo, I had like those elements active to like be able to convert upgrades to tokens and to also double the amount you get. I was just grinding in order to upgrade all cards to level 3, and it was kind of the moment they announced that, I kind of just stopped playing the game. I had reached the point, like I said, I was kind of a trader. I had already kind of like, I guess low-key flex is too much, BFP knowing to do with. So at that point, I was just trying to upgrade the cards, and I was like, well, if that's my goal now and it's gonna shut down, I don't know, I kind of just stopped playing that day right then. Of course, I was kind of sad about it, but in a way, I already had my enjoyment from the game. So besides like the people I couldn't speak with anymore, or that thing, I wasn't necessarily devastated that the game was going down. Of course, it was a little sad.
But if I remembered right, you said that you were more or less from the start with the Skylords Reborn founders. How did you meet them, contact them? Where did you notice that Skylords Reborn is going to be a thing?
Oh well, I was just in my room, I don't know, doing my thing, and at that point my brother came in, and it was just like, there's this like BattleForge clone on the forums for my first years of involvement with Skylords Reborn, and after that kind of became staff man and shifted my time somewhere else. But I found out through my brother. Not sure how he found out, but I found out through my brother.
And you, Hannah?
I think I basically just did some regular Google searches every couple of months or like once a year, BattleForge P server. And then like in October 2015, it shut up, and then I registered on the forums. But then I didn't really know what to do with it because like there was a forum and there were people making threads about a game which wasn't working. So I just kind of left it on in the background, checked every now and then if there was like, I don't know, opportunities to join the alpha or the beta. And then there was this contest where you could basically make a program or like artwork or music or anything to get beta access. I participated there, learned programming to basically make a tool for the contest, and then got into the beta that way. And then it's also how I met Lada later in the beta.
Yeah, I made. I also participated in the contest with a trailer.
Yeah, because like then in the beta, like once I started, like I basically first played a bit with friends, right, and just did a bit of PvE, did a bit of PvP, but very quickly also just went towards basically bug testing and cheating with Lada, and yeah.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, that's like one thing we kind of quickly got into. Basically, just taking apart the game client and cheating and trying to just, I don't know, do stuff.
Ultralord wants to know what tool that was.
What tool do you mean?
The one you made, I assume. For the contest?
Yeah. So that was basically a small Python application which was inspired by Hearthstone Arena, and basically it worked exactly like Hearthstone Arena. That at every turn you get presented 3 cards, and then you pick a card to basically build your deck step by step. And
cool.
It was more intended as a PvP thing. So yeah, it worked decently well, but I never really did anything with it. I also did some other tools which I never really did anything with. For example, the upgrade finder, which you now see in game, where you can see the locations for upgrades in lobbies. Like I also made a Java tool for that, which I never really released, and that could also basically give my deck, show you the maps which you play to get the optimal upgrades. But I was never really happy with it, so
Yeah,
kind of end up lying there with nothing.
I was looking at the old streams one time, and I just browsed a bit through it, and there was this contest. I think it's the same you talk about. There was something with artwork and something with tools, and one made a mobile application to sort around your cards and stuff. And I thought the people were pretty invested back then.
Yeah, like honestly, I'd say in this programming contest specifically, there wasn't much competition, and like I kind of basically won by just learning programming. So
yeah, I remember at that time there was a community member called Bob Frog, and I remember that he and I kind of we worked with the map editor actually, and we like learned that to make trailers using its in-game like camera tool actually.
that's cute.
So it kind of worked by having a map, and then the moment you start the map, some camera moves, and then playing that map as the benchmark that you play whenever you try to go in BattleForge and play the benchmark. And then we just recorded like segments of that every time, and then just compiled it into a trailer. But I remember also just like writing scripts to like try to make smooth like rotational cameras and stuff like that together with Bob Frog, and it was kind of a fun experience.
Yeah, but like after we did like those initial cheat sessions, initial testing sessions, we also kind of quickly got into just modding the game and like decompiling the client, because like our cheating had to become more efficient. So we started developing like custom check commands, so we could like more easily cheat. For example, like we wanted to set our avatars to like cards which were not in the inventory, so we just developed a set avatar command which we could use. And yeah, we basically were just messing around with this and just trying to figure out how does the game work, how can you add new stuff to it, and for the most part just having fun.
I still have those files.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Oh, good.
By the way, I stumbled upon your trailer too, Lada.
Ah, nice.
Yeah, I was researching a lot.
Yeah, that's cool.
And
the
trailer is pretty awesome, I think.
Yeah, I think I'm not 100% sure of this actually, but I think it was maybe one of the first or the first that like made trailers from the community that involves actually like cinematic angles instead of your typical top-down view like you would if you were in game. But don't quote me on that. I'm not exactly sure, but I think that's what made the trailers interesting.
Is that one actually still up on date on YouTube? Or it's down already?
It is available, but I think it's unlisted. And I found it through a forum article.
I just have to log into the Scars account, then I have it.
Yeah, most likely you do.
But yeah, in terms of like joining the extra SR team, that kind of took like 1.5 more years for Lada and me.
Yeah.
Because like we started cheating, right? We started modding the client. We started working very closely with Vicky at the time, who was the server developer. But mostly just for like structure testing. And at some point, he kind of just said, yeah, we're making you client developers, and then I guess we're part of the team. Like, we never really applied or anything, or never really, I don't know, expressed interest in explicitly joining, but at some point, we were just part of the team.
Yeah, that seems to happen quite naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, the hurdles aren't that big, like writing an application or something like that.
I mean, yeah, like, but we didn't even write an application. They literally just added us. Like, they informed us that we were being added to the team, and then we were added to the team.
Yeah, we kind of unlocked this like other part of editing in the project, the client, and I remember that I think the thing that Hawk approached us with was the in the upgrade screen that it costs gold instead of tokens. I think that was like the thing Hawk used as like, hey guys, look, Hannah and the Ladadoos can do this. Yeah, I think from that was kind of the starting point of like almost like a new era of customizability in terms of not only just editing and creating a server, but then also looking at the game and changing the game itself to add new features and new content and stuff like that.
So here goes a question that is the first pre-submitted question by someone else. I'm not sure who wants to answer first because I already confused who goes first. I don't care. The question is, do you have much time to play the game at all as players, or are you just working at it all the time?
I guess I can go first. I actually, it's. I don't remember what was the last time I like legitimately like just played a day of BattleForge or just played a few games of BattleForge. I like the game, but I almost like contributing more than I like playing the game. And at one point, like for me, a booster is not cards anymore. A booster is just a few IDs of the cards.
And a random number generator.
And a random number generator. So it sounds kind of sad, but by being so busy with the behind the scenes of the game, it kind of almost loses, at least in my case, it loses a bit of its magic touch to it. And it makes it sometimes difficult to be like motivated as a player to play the game. But being motivated to actually add features and contribute, that's a whole different beast.
Yeah. I mean, like, basically, we also just opened thousands of boosters on the test server when the game was in closed beta, just for, like, testing certain features. So, yeah, that was not a smart idea in terms of, like, making the game enjoyable for you. Because it does, feel different after you peek behind the game. So, yeah, like, personally, I also don't really play anymore. I used to play sometimes still when we had the Patreon meetings with, like, loyal Patreons like Beanie. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I mostly see just playing games as a social thing these days, and in terms of social activity, I just treat BattleForge as a development thing rather than a playing thing.
Yeah.
So yeah. To answer the question, I don't really play.
Yeah, I can relate a lot because I'm volunteering for a game as a programmer for almost 25 years now, and there's a system where you have some kind of tutor system, and when you're tutoring someone, you really try to ease them into the loss of the playability of the game because you see just functions and numbers, and it's really it is a loss.
Like, one thing is actually still pretty fun to just do is just chill in the forge and play cards. Like, that's like, one of the features which I really love about BattleForge, that you just have this forge where you can just, chill basically. Like, I'm also just playing in the forge right now while we're talking.
Yeah.
So
Same.
we made it through the first section, and we're switching up to some gameplay too. And who of you both wants to explain what we are playing today?
You have to start, Lada.
Okay, I'll tell them. I guess we're playing rPvE today. We're start with a slightly easier difficulty 6, and then we'll go up in difficulty as needed. But we've added a slight touch, I guess, to our match. We're gonna play with a match modifier, and in this case, all enemies will have the healing ability of Wheel of Gifts. So all enemies will be passively healing.
There was a lot of talk about the map modifier thingy. How do you feel about that feature in general?
It's awesome. I love it. Hanna and I, we speak of like these low effort, high value features, and I don't know. I feel like modifiers add so much replayability because you add like so many dimensions of to a game. Because modifiers, it's not like it's a change to a map. It's almost a change to the game because you can apply it to any map you want. And I think it's really easy to come up with a few match modifiers, and then you have endless possibilities in terms of combining them. And I don't know, I'm personally really excited for them, and I know Hannah is too.
Yeah. So like there's also like the question of like how you apply these modifiers to maps, right? And as far as I know, like I'm not sure if I'm leaking anything here, but like the plan right now is to use these modifiers to just funnel players into a certain map. So like there will be like one map which is basically active for a modifier, let's say, and then it will have like some effect. Like for example, it will be influenced by, let's say, two like faction colors, like one major fire modifier where enemies like are basically always have rage, so they deal more damage. Maybe they always have ravage. And maybe there can also be a minor modifier, which can also be positive or negative. So, for example, maybe like all your monuments regenerate, like all your wells generate 1% health every 2 seconds or something. There's like lots of stuff you can do. And we have great game designers who basically figure out how we can use these nice features to basically have a game that is replayable and kind of creates content itself, and kind of make sure that we have players who can play together and not split across 20 different game modes and then have nobody to play with.
Yeah,
Chimaka already asks if you can re-roll the modifiers then if you don't like it.
So like if the idea is that like one map will have one certain modifier, then that might be a bit more difficult. But like in the future, I think something like it's more customizable modifiers should be possible. I assume that it would also probably be possible to just play a map without an active modifier if you don't want to play it right now. But yeah.
Yeah.
So let's fire it up.
Are you logged in on test server, or do I need to? No, you're offline actually.
No, I'm here. We are in a group together.
Are we? I'm in a group of Ladadoos.
I don't see you online, Kappa.
Yeah.
Interesting. I just left the group. It just went silent and black.
Oh, well, that's sad. I assume that's the bug of the audio changing.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and I guess to say a little more about the match modifiers, the thing I really like about it is that from a technical point of view, it's actually, but you can correct me on this, like relatively easy to add. And I'd say most of the difficulty comes from what we want to add around it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I'm really looking forward to the date we have this in the game.
Same.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. I already was talking to other of the team members about this because I'm so hyped for it.
Yeah, have you played like games like Risk of Rain, perhaps?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, like that also has like these modifiers that you can choose before you start. I think they have a different name. I don't know exactly what it is. But it's like, I don't know. I think those are really great. You can just combine them as you want, and I don't know. there's just so many combinations possible. Dude, already so many combinations you can have with your decks.
Oh, Lada, you know what's sad? We never play Risk of Rain anymore.
That's true.
Oh.
A Risk of
Last-
Rain was a lot of fun because I also like the replayability of games like Faster Than Light and roguelikes in general.
Okay, so like for the modifiers we have currently active on this map, in the top left you can basically see that we have the Wheel of Gifts effect active for the enemies. And it's actually a buffed version of it, so the enemies right now generate 3% of their maximum health points every 2 seconds. And yeah, that right now for the smaller enemies doesn't really cause a lot of trouble, but once you will get to like the bosses, that will be a bit of an issue. Capo, if you have a look at your monuments, there's also another minor modifier active. It's basically a juice tank ability or juice tank effect for your monument. Because like if you know this feeling if like once your player or like your teammate plays juice tank in rPvE and you just have like this blissful feeling of, wow, my power wells will not run out of power, you will basically now get the same feeling but for your monuments.
That's totally not crazy at all, but all right.
Oh
god!
I mean,
God.
At the moment, it's not doing too much damage to me because I have my Mighty Thunderers, but I will see how soloing the tier 2 position, tier 3 position will feel like. I'm scared a bit.
You'll be fine. Okay, I'm going for the spawn camp, Hannah.
Yeah, thanks.
I will not help you.
Oh. Oh no, a lot of units spawn.
Well, that's not good.
Yeah, but it is down.
Lada, oh no, wait.
Wait, I'm coming down.
I placed the mine.
Yeah, I also have one placed, but I need to move down so they start triggering, but it doesn't. Oh, it went away. Sad.
Oh,
Already
this
playing like pros there. So
Yeah.
The next question goes to Lada first because he said he's longer in the team. At the beginning, how was the team like when you joined it, and how well was the setup, the project setup already, and what were the main topics and hurdles at the beginning?
Well, I guess a slight correction. I guess I was in the with Skylords Reborn prior to Hanna, but we kind of joined the team at the same time.
Okay.
But there's a lot to mention there. First of all, one of the things that we already mentioned a bit is not necessarily the team, but the game, the project really had the mindset of not altering BattleForge, and by having Hannah and I join the team, we kind of unlocked this possibility and also steered the project in a way to to make this actually happen, because we believe it was for the better of the project. And because originally we had a quest system like we have now, but it was planned to add this through chat. But then you have a quest system, but it's arguably not really usable. And by having us join it unlocked a lot of new possibilities in terms of client modifications, which was really nice at the time. And
it also kind of basically went from this mindset of, we can mod the client, to like an actual, we can implement new features in the client, or like we can change the code in the client or like in the UI to make it do what we want, right?
Okay.
So that was it in terms of like how the game was like envisioned from technical side. In terms of like how the team was structured, it was mostly just consisting of developers, which were subdivided into server developers and tool developers. And aside from that, there were moderators who basically dealt with mostly forum issues and Discord issues. And there was also the project lead, which at the time was Hawk and Link. There was also Blank, but I don't think he was too active anymore. Actually, I think Blank was still active around the time, right? Up until the stress tests.
Yeah.
But yeah, and yeah, the game was just really focused on this whole, like, we need to bring BattleForge back as it was originally. And I think the team basically also reflects it, right? If there's only developers, and like there was also like Link, who also did design, but he was not overly active. So yeah, it kind of is different from our vision from the game, because like from our view, we think that the game probably had a reason why that, right? Like it obviously isn't perfect from a game design perspective. So having like a game which is like basically improved rather than just revived is, in our opinion, a nicer goal to have.
Yeah, because back then you didn't have map artists, you didn't have artists, you didn't have a lot of the roles that there are now. Because well, you don't need a map maker if you just want to revive the game. You don't need a map artist or an artist if you're not going to add cards, and so that's a big change that Hannah and I did. It was to not only change a bit of that mindset, but also define more roles and kind of structure it more like a normal game studio would, with all of the your typical roles you might have, and make sure that we define the responsibilities of each role, and then start looking for those people accordingly in order to be able to add and not only revive the game.
Were there a lot of discussions back then around those topics? Or did you guys just naturally fit into, okay, we did get the game to work, now let's improve it? Or how did that play along inside the team?
So I'd say like at that time we mostly had lots of internal drama, and just also like server bugs, internal drama, and yeah, that was mostly it. So I think from April 2019 until 2020 April, I basically didn't personally contribute a lot. Like I was basically just hanging out with friends IRL, because like we weren't also really given tasks, and it's like there's basically like no permission to improve stuff aside from QL features back then. So that kind of caused a lack of motivation. But yeah, that kind of changed around the COVID times, when basically Lada and I kind of became super active. Because like personally, I lost my job around COVID times, and then I had too much free time, and yeah.
So COVID made BattleForge, made Skylords Reborn into what it is today.
You can say that, yes.
You could argue, yeah.
we should add a small Corona banner somewhere in the loading screen.
Made possible by Corona.
But yeah, then people think we're a virus, so that's not too good.
Or
Then,
maybe
then the antivirus scanners will kind of, get angry at us.
Oh no.
So when we're talking about your work, or maybe even Kubik's work, we hear a lot the term reverse engineering. And I've got a pre-submitted question that says, what is meant by reverse engineering? Could you explain that like someone who works at a bakery?
Someone who works at a bakery, or like as an analogy?
To someone.
Okay.
I know.
Okay, so I can do it. Okay, let's say in terms of like we have two areas, right? Like either we have a feature request, so that a designer wants to change something, or we have let's say basically a like files the game left us. So let's say just certain breads, and we want to figure out what is the recipe. And for like the features, we kind of have to first understand like how does the recipe currently look like, so we can modify it. And this understanding process is basically reverse engineering. Rather than engineering a feature, we try to figure out how it was engineered. And once we understand how it was engineered, we can basically try to change the code location like in a very precise manner to essentially make it function how we want to.
Okay, I think this could have been explained as normally you have a recipe and the ingredients and you make a bread, but in this case we already have the bread and we're trying to figure out what the ingredients and the recipe were.
Yeah. I wanted to go a bit more into like the whole game design thing or like feature implementation, but yeah, that's also a nice way to put it.
And you kind of start looking at observing the piece of bread at different angles. You take nibbles at it and try to figure out what what ingredients are in it, like how we would by looking at the assets left behind by EA, and and looking at it and figuring out how the bread was made. And once you know how it was made, you can change the recipe and make a different bread. That's still mostly the same bread.
Yeah, but isn't it like more complicated than that? If we stay in this analogy, I would say you're trying to making bread, but you don't even know what flour is or what water is.
I mean, I don't know. Like it's not that it's not that complicated, really. But like, it just takes a lot of time, right? Like it's kind of like being a baby and then eating this for the first time. And then after, you first need to kind of learn language to just understand like what they're even speaking, right? It kind of went for us too. So like in that sense, we're kind of children right now in BattleForge, and we can do some stuff like form some sentences, speak a bit, but we don't have the same comprehension as an adult, and the adults are like the original game developers.
And there's also other tools that help us figure out what type of flour it was, or how much water was used.
Yeah, and like sometimes they also have certain ingredients just lying around from like the previous recipes, and we can just also look at that a bit.
Yeah.
Okay. And I got a more sophisticated question. At the beginning, what tools were used to reverse engineer, and what are you using now? Beside the hex editor.
Maybe Lada can explain on the first thing, like how it was used back then. I think you were also watching screen shares back then.
Are we specifically about the reverse engineering tools, or just tools that we use and have currently?
Reverse engineering tools back then.
Yeah. Oh, so there's quite a few different ones, and for us specifically, because we started with the client, we mostly were at first involved. Well, kind of at the same time with the Lua part of it, so that's the client part. But there you kind of had, I'd say, 3 tools or so involved. One of the important ones was that the game consists kind of a lot of these spec files, and these spec files are just, you can see them as a folder, but they're a folder in a weird format that you need to unpack in order to see its original content.
You can imagine it like a zip file or a RAW file.
Yeah, you can see it like a zip or a RAW file, and once you have that, the BattleForge so-called unpacked with the first tool, then you're left with a lot of Lua files, LUB files, XML files, and alongside other files like the assets, so the arts and voice lines and all of that. But Hannah and I were mostly interested in the Lua files and XML files, because that's where the logic kind of happens. That's where your UI is defined, how it works and how it looks like. And one of the other tools that we used was pretty much to decompile that LUB into something that's human readable. And so as you can imagine, that there's a file that describes how the marketplace kind of works and looks like. There's a file that describes how inventory kind of works and looks like. And some of these could be easily, decompiled, so we get kind of a bit of the code that forms that file. But some don't decompile that well, and then there's, I guess, a third tool where you kind of have to manually look at every file, every line yourself, and kind of almost decompile it yourself, because there's some parts that the decompiler wasn't able to decompile properly. And there were a few occasions. I don't know actually how often you would say that happened, Hannah, but definitely a few times where we had to dig deep into decompiling it manually instead of having the tool do it for us.
Yeah, that happened quite frequently with the bigger files down the line. Like, there was also some files where I kind of had to change the compiler source code so it actually decompiles properly. And yeah, but like that was just one aspect, right? That's for just the Lua files.
Yeah.
There was also like the whole part of like decompiling the game binary files, or the BattleForge.exe, and that one started quite a bit earlier. Like that one was the one they already starting to decompile in 2015. The tools they were using for that back then was, I assume, mostly either Pro from Hex. I don't know, not Hex Tech. That's from Arcane. Hex Brains. Yeah, doesn't matter. But as far as I know, the first thing they kind of did was to basically try to extract the network packets from the BattleForge exe to basically try to see, okay, the client has functions for basically reading these network packets, and therefore we need to implement this on our server to find out how this works. Or like to basically trick the game into thinking it has a server.
Yeah.
And IDA Pro is something we still use sometimes, especially Cubic uses that. But the tool costs a couple €1,000, so not everyone has access to that. Personally, I just stick to Jydra Pro, which is from the NSA, I believe. And this is also basically a free version of a decompiler, which can analyze the C++ compile program, which is BattleForge exe, and also just help you analyze it and find out what function has which functionality, so you can have targeted changes.
Yeah. And the very nice part of this is that there's also all of these DLL files alongside the exe. That's kind of the fact that they're there, they make it really useful to try to figure out the semantics of the code, because unlike the BattleForge exe file, the DLLs are left with a little more of the original source code. So you can imagine things like function names and class names.
They effectively have like the symbol names of certain aspects of the source code, but it's like not the same as the source code. It's just like a utility tool mostly.
Yeah.
So far we covered the BattleForge exe, we covered the Lua files. What we also have is the so-called CFF files, or like basically the database of the game where it stores all the cards, all the abilities, all the spells. And that's one we started also reverse engineering quite early. I think initial reverse engineering work happened by Blank back then. And he essentially decoded the first like part of the file to just understand it, and also some of the tables contained in it. The tables contained in it, say, for example, I have a table for all abilities, I have a table for all spells, I have a table for all conditions under which a spell can be cast, and so on. And I basically also took that project on in 2017 or 2018 actually, and started writing a tool to just be able to modify that in a nice GUI. The idea back then kind of was to basically allow some tool where you just see, I don't know, some rendered card, and then you can click on the card to just edit it. It didn't turn out quite as nicely as that, but it's still, after some learning, usable to like just change anything you want about any card in the game.
But that's the famous entity editor, right?
The ultimate BattleForge entity editor, yes.
Yeah, it's so sorry. The ultimate, of course, BattleForge entity editor.
Yes.
Yeah, why did you call it ultimate? Because you can edit anything.
Oh, I'm not sure anymore.
Because Hannah thinks much of herself now.
I'm not sure. Like, there was some debate about that, and like it kind of felt like it was better than what they probably had originally back in like the original game. So at that point, it became the original, ultimate BattleForge entity editor. And we also have something called integrated hot reloading in the game. So what we can do is we can basically make a change in the entity editor, go in the game, press a hotkey, and you can instantly just see the change you just did. That makes it very convenient for card implementers to just implement changes and then just try out stuff. Yeah. We have the same also done for the Lua files. We basically took the UI and built development tools into the existing UI to allow us to more easily develop this. So basically we can just tell the game, oh, we want to load our source files from our source repository, and then we can just directly edit things, and the game will instantly load it.
I just noticed I got a message to notice the new cool buttons here.
Oh yeah, that's one of the features altered. This is the Forge speed button.
Oh, very
this
cool.
was first behind the command, so now there's UI for it.
I got a question that's cute later on, but I think it's very fitting right now because we now got a glimpse on how complicated everything gets, and I think quite a fitting question to that is, what is a seemingly small thing that took surprisingly long to figure out or make happen?
So I mean, I think a funny twist to that story is maybe what's something that took a long time but is actually seemingly simple to fix, and that's 12-player maps. For the longest time, it just wouldn't work. The project wasn't able to make 12-player maps work, and I guess to keep a long story short, in the end it was less than half a line of code that needed to be changed to make 12 players map work, and which was basically the part that said also communicate these messages to the other maps. By just changing this half line of code, 12 player maps basically pretty much worked, which was quite funny.
So the problem was to find where that line is and what it does. Exactly.
I mean, first have to know that you have to find that line, right? That's the first thing you ever have to look for. Like, you have to understand exactly why is 12-player maps not functioning, right? Because only if you understand why it's not functioning, you seek out that line specifically.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to try to understand, okay, how did 12-player maps work in the original BattleForge game? And then if you have that theory, you can try to verify that by, let's say, just implement an experiment in a code to just see what it does. And luckily, it just fixed the problem. So
yeah, so I guess a little more specifically, maps have these I think they're networked variables. And these I think are specifically for 12-player maps, and these are kind of you could say events that once they happen on map A, they kind of need to be broadcast also to map B and C. So that's
when in Passage to Darkness, when you kill some of these avatars of whatnot, and Moon tells you that the other map completed killing one of them or killing a shrine.
Yeah, exactly, and the game kind of when you in a map kind of kill an entity that should trigger a certain event to happen, like the one you just mentioned. You inform the server, hey, I killed this thing, and basically what the server was just doing is, okay, cool for you, I'm throwing it in the trash, not letting others know. But the trick was pretty much changing it so that it did inform the rest. And in hindsight, you could say, oh, it's such an easy fix, but no, it can happen, and you kind of also need to get a bit of a feel of how BattleForge works and by knowing how it kind of might work or could work, you kind of get you start getting educated guesses of what the problem could be, and it so happened to be a line of code in our server that had to be changed.
To get back to the original question of what was actually seemingly small and took long to happen, generally speaking, if something is a small feature and it takes a long time to happen, we just don't do that feature, right? Because then this is high effort, low gain.
Yeah.
So we try to just not work on something like this, and if it happens, it's not something you would like to proudly proclaim in the stream, to be honest. But yeah, I think one example maybe is just making lobbies and groups function properly in a game. For example, you can see right now, on the right side in the lobby, you can see that we have our team, that I'm the group leader, and Ladadoos and you are just, normal members. For the longest time, that was just not implemented correctly on the server, and it caused tons of minor bugs and crashes. And this went through massive rounds of testing rounds of Ladadoos and me back then. So we tested this with Vicky, and he made changes based on our feedback to try to implement it. We tested it with Mourinho. He also tried to fix it, and then we also came on the server, and then we also spent some time to fix it. And after a couple years of efforts from everyone combined, finally we have functioning lobbies and groups, which is seemingly small, but
well, it is exactly what that question was targeting for. And the 12-player maps was a small detail, but the 12-player maps was a huge thing when this came available. But those small avatar thingies on the right side, nobody cares about that much.
Yeah, but the right side, what you see is kind of a reflection of how the game currently thinks about its state, as in you need to properly track, are you in a party? If you're in a party, with who are you, and what is your state? Are you in a team? Are you in what team are you? And are you in the game? Are you in the lobby? And there's a lot to it, and I would argue that because Hannah and I also were more involved in the client, we could also we also knew better, what the game kind of expected in terms of what states the game expected to be in order to work properly. And I'm not sure if we ended up doing that, Hannah, but if we even ended up, I think we did, altering the client so that it would end up working eventually, and even improving upon it.
We did do that, yeah.
Yeah. So. But that took a long time because it's really a lot of testing because there's a lot of flows that are there to be tested, and it's a really tricky and arguably kind of boring thing to also test.
And there's also the issue that you have decompiled files where you're not sure if they decompile correctly. So then at every point you question yourself, did I decompile this correctly? Is this a new bug which is now in the game, was always there? And yeah, this was a bit of a headache as well.
Everything sounds very tedious.
Yeah, because the moment you start changing things yourself, then it's like, okay, did this break because of our change, or was this already broken?
You also blamed me for a couple months for a change I didn't break. And this was just an EA thing. Remember this random cards you got on startup? When the match started? You just had a scrambled deck, which basically was of the corrupted deck data.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you blamed me for that.
Yeah.
It wasn't my fault.
I can hear you have some nice memories.
Oh yeah. We spent so many hours, days in, day out, programming and figuring out BattleForge. It was a good time.
It was? Okay, wow.
I mean, at the time was in the past, so if you want to say it still is, it is.
No.
But it happened in the past.
It's okay.
It's okay.
I accept.
I accept.
It's in the past.
It's in the past.
And one question that is fitting to this question is, what was the most surprising thing you discovered while reverse engineering and decompiling the game?
I mean, in general, there's when you're just a programmer, also from work or just a hobby, and you start trying to figure out how BattleForge works. You kind of build up these notions of how you think it might work, and these assumptions are usually from a point of view where that it's a good solution, a good implementation, that because no one is going to willingly implement something subpar when writing a program, but there's a lot of cases where you just try to learn how something works, and then you realize that it's kind of works in a way that you don't expect it to, and then also in a more complicated way. And then you try to figure out why it is that case, and in a lot of cases you really never know why it is that. And I'm sure Qubit can also tell a lot of stories about the countless things he encountered that are seemingly random or don't really have an explanation.
Yeah, like there's also like some little fun quirks you can just encounter in the game. For example, like there's like lots of developer inside jokes from EA Phenomic, or like cheat cards you can see there. So those was just like fun little things to look at. For example, like there was one cute line they had in the game database. This outcry text was inputted in the database, exported by the exporter, and outputted on your screen by Krombacher. Ihr Bier für ganz besonderes Gelaber.
What the hell?
Yeah, that was in the game first. They also had like a added a card image of like one of the developers just on the phalanx icon. That was also pretty cute. And like also just in general, like some of the names in the game files. For example, like there's a test card called test_Guido_special, and there was like a developer called Guido back then. So
Oh, that's really some weird stuff. The inside of a software company must be really weird. I never worked for one, but it all sounds so crazy.
yeah, here's also the Juggernaut trailer Marcus. Here's the Fire Dancer trailer Jennifer.
Yeah. I assume those are the variants of the cards used for trailers.
Maybe those were the names of interns.
Oh,
Yeah,
who knows?
So. But yeah, those was like some cute things. There's also like a cute code called Mother Trucker.
Oh yeah.
Who's basically like a Nox unit who can do Stampede, who runs extremely fast and is kind of broken.
Yeah.
It's like also one of the first cheating tools we did, basically to just cycle through all the game IDs that has our cards and then just play them out in the Forge. Or even in game.
And look what happens.
Look what happens.
Yeah, it's like a slippery slope. Like once you start cheating, you kind of run down the slope of like just joining his art team and then later spending too much of your free time on this.
Yeah.
Like I even tried to use my cheat tool against Radical X and like I almost beat him.
I think one of the, I guess, cheats or outside of the game was the ability we found that you could change your avatar for free without having to pay BFP for it. By just looking at the game and, you know, thinking how the server could implement this and then trying to find loopholes in it.
Or for example, imagine playing the Fire Tornado from Titans in a PvP match.
Oh,
yeah,
well, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's radical, right? But then it's the guy's just too good.
I mean, you could also try to play out what happens in the end of Siege of Hope, but my guess is that that this is not a card; it's just a map script or something.
What's that?
Not Siege of Hope. Defending Hope. The Defending Hope in the end, there comes some swoosh and everything is dead.
Cool.
Hannah is a PvP player, so she doesn't know much about PvP.
Yeah, it sounds like that.
Poor Hannah.
Hannah, you should sometime play the campaign.
That's also why we're playing our PvE now, guys. Is because.
I mean, that's why we're adding the map modifiers, right? Because like right now the game doesn't have really that much replayability for the campaigns, but like with map modifiers, you can just replay it all day.
Will we see Hannah then in the speedrunning table?
Not really. If I quit my jobs, maybe, but probably not.
So let's try the next question. We get in principle, we get used to features very fast. What is some non-obvious feature of Skylords Reborn that wasn't in original BattleForge? And I'm not speaking about something like achievements or quests, which everybody knows, but what is some non-obvious thing that you changed in the system, which everybody would expect that would have been there already at the start?
I mean, this is like mostly just the minor QL things, right? The game had like lots of small weird things, which, you know, we kind of just instantly fixed Lada.
Yeah. I don't know, if I just look back at like quality of life features that I think people really like is like the delete all mails button. So you don't have to open them one by one and delete them. I feel like that could be probably a good candidate for this. And I'm also thinking about changes to auction house where we added like the extra long duration and kind of just slightly revamped the UI of the marketplace too. The ability to add multiple cards at the same time.
What? Wait, what? Wait, what? The ability to add multiple cards wasn't there in original BattleForge?
No.
No. You just drag one by one, but now you can drag one and then say, "Oh yeah, add 10 of these."
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's new to me.
Yeah. Also, like for example, if you look at the chat in the bottom left, like
Yes.
the color of the chat is darker than it was in the original BattleForge. Like the original BattleForge had a really bright chat.
Yeah.
Which kind of made it hard to read sometimes, and we kind of just adjusted it. I think we also changed some of the chat colors to make them more easily readable.
Yeah. And of course the ability to resize the chat.
Yes.
Shout out to all my traders out there who enjoy large chats.
Oh. So that's why you made this feature. I see.
Yeah. And yeah, just a lot of I think cool things is also like the ability that you can click on cards in the marketplace to play them out in the forge or see the contents of a booster.
Yeah. Or for example, in the deck window, you can also filter for your decks in top right. That was also not in the original BattleForge. That was actually just an empty space. So
yeah.
Do you mean the advanced filters or search for anything at all?
The search for decks in like your deck window.
Okay.
That was not in BattleForge. That is a Skylords Reborn feature.
Oh, some of those things are really surprising to me.
Yeah. Like, but you know that you can filter for decks, right?
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I know.
Good.
I do know.
Good.
I do actually use it. But I'm kind of confused now that right now I feel like I must compare some screenshots back then. Now I will do that someday.
No, I'm curious. Well, but I guess we gave good answer to this question then. If you're questioning whether it was in the game or not.
Yeah, you actually did. I'm a little.
We're probably just gaslighting you.
and I think
that could be a thing as well.
And I mean, there must it'd be really funny if now we're missing like the most obvious feature, like me and Hannah also missing it because we think it's in the game, but it was added by us. But I think it really boils down to those really small quality of life features. They're like, holy heck, how was that not in the game already back then? But there might even
yeah.
There's probably even changes that were never really like announced in changelog because they're so small. But
don't say that. Lebo will kill you.
Yeah. Sorry, Lebo. I said nothing.
Yeah, I noticed that Lebo isn't really that happy if you change a lot of stuff and it never ends up in the patch notes, and he has to fill all those blank spots in the wiki.
Yeah, I mean, it's to be honest, rightfully so that he is a bit, I guess, takes in a way ownership of making sure all the changes are in the changelog. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I guess it can also be overdone a bit. Kind of depends. But
yeah, I guess you have to strike a balance. If you play every minor, if you add every minor thing, then you will get overwhelmed.
And then you lose the focus a bit of what really matters.
So
I like the Twilight Eye.
Yeah, the evil eye is just so awesome. It all makes splat and it's just cool.
Yeah.
One thing that we casual, usual, normal Skylords often hear is that you guys, especially Hannah, is responsible for reviews. So what's that review thing? And why is it so often a topic?
Okay, so like imagine you're a developer, right? And like you get tasked to, I don't know, develop a feature or like a fix for the game, right? And then you use all the developer tools like Git, and then you just, get the repository and start implementing your changes.
Yes.
Then you say, okay, cool, I'm done with this feature. Hannah can take a look at this. This is kind of what I mean by review. Like, basically, they say, okay, I implemented something which was given to me, let's say, for example, by designers. And now Hannah should take a look at this because I think this is done and we can just merge this. Or like basically put this on a test server or the production server.
Yeah.
So what I don't have to do is that I have to check first, does what this person implemented confirm with the specifications they got from designers? Does this feature, does the code for this feature not introduce any new bugs? And does the code for this feature actually do what it does? And does it not introduce any unintended features? And then you also have to check in game, okay, does this actually do what it's supposed to do? And yeah, how much time this takes kind of varies from merge request, feature to feature. And it also kind of depends how polished something is, right? Like if you, as a developer, put in like a lot of effort to just basically make the merge request as perfect as possible, then obviously there's nothing for me to find, right? And everything is just finished already. But on the other hand, you can also like kind of have the issue that like merge request is like not completely polished yet, right? So then I would basically go on the forge, but then discover there's like still lots of bugs, and then this results in like lots of back and forth, and then this just kind of takes the process into a much longer, like time-consuming direction. And yeah, like the state we're kind of working towards is that we want to have like a state where the things you work on are like clearly specified in terms of scope, because like we also sometimes had issues that we've just had things grow, like blow up a bit too bigly, which makes the merge requests and reviews harder. And the second thing you want to do is like that we want to start early with testing of features. So we can basically make sure that whatever we implement is both like manageable in terms of size and also tested by external people already.
So I got an extra stupid question. You said you and that's 100% clear to me. You have to check if it doesn't introduce new bugs. But how do you do that? You can't test the whole game, can you?
I mean, no, I can't. But I basically look at every single line of code that changed and ask myself what it does.
Yeah. Okay.
And if it introduces bugs, I might see that, I might not see that. So I'm kind of like the second instance of checking, right? Because like first the developer who does this like should think, does this introduce any bugs? Can I do it like this? But then I have like my second look over it and say, okay, I will check that this actually does not break anything.
So in order, if we look at the bread, we have this recipe of making a bread, and we have already this bread made, but we would like this different form of bread. Well, to make a different type of bread, we need to change the recipe. So a developer changes the recipe a bit, and we look at these lines. Well, how did the recipe change? And to test whether it gives us the bread that we eventually want, well, we follow the steps of the recipe and check if the bread comes out like we want it to.
Yeah, and we also then check for like the health, like does the new ingredient cause cancer or anything? Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah, I was thinking of is the bread secretly made of acid?
Well,
without the developer noticing that he added acid to the.
I mean, yeah, like that would be basically my job to make sure that like there's no acid which actually goes live, and yeah. This so far sometimes, can happen, but usually I manage to catch that. Because like it's a check with two instances, right? Like the developer checks it and I should do the second check to make sure it's fine.
The next one is a really interesting question that is very, very, very interesting to me, and I hope to the viewers too. And it is, besides those reviews, what are you currently working on actively right now as a developer? Maybe Lada starts?
Yeah, sure, I can start. And I guess I can also start by prefacing that Hannah and I both are changing our responsibilities and trying to actually focus less on the developer part. That's why we're also mostly admins and take more of a supportive role. So that includes the tasks like the reviewing someone else's work and handling any admin requests. But most of the actually developer heavy lifting is we try to hand it off to other people because we either don't have the time or we've already added so much. At one point there's also other things to explore. But specifically for me, I'm mostly focusing on two things. I'm in contact with with the DRS. Those are the 3D models of the game. I'm helping someone called Maxel with a tool that can make it possible to add new models to the game. And alongside that, also working on one of the tools that I made, and then also with another community member, the special effect editor. So making it possible to edit special effects and improving that, and overseeing that project. But the thing that I try to focus on the most, aside that, is documenting the knowledge that Hannah and I have gathered past years, and making sure that certain processes or knowledge or anything that other people should know is documented, and that this knowledge is carried over to other people. To give a concrete example, I wrote a bit of I adjusted, I made a tool and wrote a bit of a how-to guide on how you can add your own sounds to the game. So whenever a new unit is added, new voice lines need to be added, right? And think of also of music or anything like that. And in the beginning, it was just mostly a bit of a hacky process. Like, you figure it out a bit, and then suddenly we are adding new cards that need sounds. So then you need a bit of a workflow, a pipeline for this. And then part of the job is then to set up this pipeline and write down the knowledge that you've gathered by figuring out how to add the sounds and how the sounds work, so that other people, and that's kind of the main point of this, that other people can also do these tasks, and that they're not so much reliant on Hannah or I. That's concretely the developer things I'm spending most of my time on lately.
So first about the sound files. So if I understand it right, you are developing the documentation and the tools so the new audio guys can actually work on their own, right?
Yeah, that's a good summary of it. Yeah.
And of course, somebody in the chat jumped upon the model thing, and we got a question on the chat. Can we expect completely new models in the next 2 years?
That's a really tricky question. The thing is,
He gave you 2 years. That was pretty smart. That's a long time, but
it is a long time. But the thing that makes this tricky is that a model is quite a complex data structure, or there's a lot of different things that are involved into making a model kind of function. It's not only how it just looks like in 3D, but making sure that it can move a certain way in its 3D, that it looks like how you want it to in terms of textures, and how it reacts with the environment, so like reflections of light, or that things like shadows work on it properly. There's a lot of different components to it, and it's tricky to also test it and work with it, because it's not like you can just edit a bit of a line of code and it kind of works. You kind of need to open up a 3D modeling program, and I'm really interested in 3D computer graphics, but I've personally never modeled myself. So it's a really time-consuming process. We already know a lot about it, but there's still also a lot to learn about it. I'm gonna lean on the safer side and say that there's different categories to models. There's models that are kind of static, let's say a rock, a tree, things that don't really move. But then you also have things that do move, units that have walking animations.
And a skeleton.
Yeah, a skeleton,
Yeah.
a building that has these crumbling states. We are adding these static objects is already something that has been achieved, and but then the next step into the animations, into the skeletons, that's quite a big leap. That I could see happen. I could also not see. It's the reason why it's also really difficult to answer is because everyone does this in their free time, and before you know it, someone doesn't work on it for months, and suddenly it makes it unfeasible to achieve it in 2 years. So
the tricky thing here is also like that the models like not only like just animations which are moving a skeleton, it's like also tying it to game logic, right? So like you have some extra information which is like not necessarily like mappable to like some open format for 3D graphics. So this is like where a lot of the extra difficulty comes in.
Yeah, because BattleForge has its own format for its 3D models, the DRS, that doesn't only contain like the model, the skeleton, and how it should move and stuff like that, but it also has extra information in it. Like I believe also the walking speed in it, a scale. There's all like extra metadata about it that kind of ties into the game logic of BattleForge, and it's a complex system with a lot of components to it. I would say it's realistically that it won't happen in the next 2 years, but yeah, it could. It just really depends on time availability and commitment. It kind of goes in waves, suddenly, in 1 month you kind of want to work on it a lot, and then suddenly you're kind of a bit burned out of it, and you need to take a bit of a time off. So
to be honest, how I understand it, if you do something like reverse engineering a 3D model data file system, it could be that you could say I'm at 99% done, and then you're stuck for 5 years.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to that's definitely a possibility in this, because there's so many components to it and interactions between the components, and we know a bit of what's facing on what we're dealing with and what's ahead of us, but there's still a black boxy part of BattleForge, and you never know. And given just the inherent complexity of the model, it can take a while before you go over certain hurdles, and it costs a lot of time, and unfortunately, there's not always that time, and so yeah.
But I mean, that's quite a good answer, because I think it tells us that there's progress already made, and that you need a final breakthrough to really make this happen, and that breakthrough didn't happen yet.
Yeah, it's really just this is kind of funny. It's just as the project grows, so do we, and we suddenly have jobs too, and we're not students anymore, and because it's in the student lifetime that where you have like a lot of time to spend extra, and suddenly spending an entire week 24/7 on figuring out how the DRS works suddenly becomes a lot less realistic, and it's such a complex data structure that it takes a bit of time to also like kind of wrap your head around it and how it works before you can continue working on it again. And it definitely helps if you already have some knowledge of computer graphics beforehand, because then you already know a bit how you can expect certain data to be structured and what it can mean and how changing it might influence the model.
Yeah, what you can also do is like you can basically look at the game and see how it can load these files, right? Because like if the game can read these files, it also has to have some underlying structures which it reads them into. So that can also help us understand what the game is trying to do with each piece of data.
Yeah. I think the sad reality is that if my job was to work on this, then I'd say yeah, definitely. But unfortunately, I need a job where I get actually paid, and also all the other people involved in making making this possible. So yeah, it's just a lot of time that's not always there.
Maybe this is the right moment to plug the classic sentence. If you are interested in computer graphics and reverse engineering, you may want to apply to the Skylords Reborn team.
Yeah,
yes,
we have new people who are getting interested in this though. So like not all hope is lost, but yeah, it's just a tedious project which takes a lot of time. But yeah, like it's one thing we also do, which I think didn't mention. Like we teach basically new developers who apply to just get started with stuff. We kind of try not too much, but like take them by the hand a bit and then just see that they have like a smooth like a start into just getting started with the project, being able to do their first features and so on, so they can hopefully quickly do like independent work.
But I'm gonna roll back now to the original question because Hannah didn't answer this one yet, and to remind you, what are you working on beside those review and admin stuff? If you want to answer.
Before Hannah goes, I want to quickly give a shout out to Maxal, by the way. He's one of the also carry forces of making 3D models possible. So I don't know if I did it, but if I did, then there.
Cute. But yeah, like things I've worked on in terms of development concretely, like I met the map modifiers like technically possible like a few weeks ago now. Like basically kind of went that like Wind Hunter texted me in the evening and was like, yeah, we can't do this still. Would be nice if we can look at it at some point. And then I just decided to do it in the evening. And then at 2 a.m. I had the answer for it and we had map modifiers. So that was great. And I also, if you check out the news tab in the events,
doesn't show in the.
Oh, it's only for GMs. Oh, that's so sad. Wait, can I make this available for you? Okay, I'll make this available while I talk about the other things. So the other things I'm like plan to work on next is I plan to train a large language model specifically for translation in BattleForge. So one thing, like one big issue I have right now in Skylords is that basically whenever we add new cards or new features, we need to not only make them in English, but also in German, French, and Russian, which is a super tedious process. And that also causes a lot of frustration by, let's say, card implementers if they not only have to implement things, but also make sure that they get the proper translations, that the English text is fine, that like they only get the translations once the English text is like reviewed and finished. And then suddenly someone wants to change the English text again, and then it's all over again. And yeah, that's so fun. That's why I'm basically trying to get, some AI assisted workflow going here. So that whole process is simplified quite a bit.
So translators would just have to review it instead of writing it.
Ideally, like if it works that well, that would be the idea. Like in terms of the papers I saw, like Google Translate quality should be achievable. So let's hope for the best. I'm not sure like if it would then run on like just normal PCs, but that is the hope. And I guess one thing I'm trying to just find out. Hopefully I can still do it this year. I have like a vacation in like towards the second half of December, so maybe I can work on that if I don't have to work for my like actual job. The other thing I'm still kind of working on to make sure it happens is like I'm kind of adding technical things to make it possible to add a new rPvE difficulty. Mm-hmm. So I believe that was announced already that like we are trying to like add new difficulties for the game because like between 9 and 10 there's like just a massive jump between difficulty. Like 9 feels more like advanced in rPvE, right? And 10 feels more like expert plus. So we're kind of trying to get something there in between those two difficulties to just smoothen the gap between 9 and 10. And yeah, like just to make that happen smoothly, I'm, just helping out a bit. So I refreshed the news. Is it visible? Now it's visible for you. Perfect.
Yes. Bad Bandit Radical X.
Yes, exactly.
So it's
that's an FNL thing I made possible.
So it already makes, and the summon skeletons is already automatically translated in the corpse gathering.
Yeah.
So if I switch my language, I would see it in German more or less correctly.
Yeah, pretty much. So the reason why I did this was because Majora wanted to have these like little bullet points you can see in the corpse gathering passive.
Mm-hmm.
Because like these passive icons can also just be used as fancy bullet points. Because like I asked him if he wants this because I just saw he was using the minus things as bullet points, and I thought it wasn't too pretty. And this was just one line of code to change this.
So those news will also be translated then nicely.
In theory, you could do that, yes, but that can already be done. The only reason we don't do it is because it takes a lot of effort for not too much gain. It's kind of the thing we have going on, right? We kind of try to go for low-hanging fruits, but also like the other thing we try to go for is like features which basically create new content which is replayable. So, for example, like rPvE, like new rPvE difficulties is replayable. Map modifiers creates more replayability for campaign maps and so on.
Fascinating, really. It's something that the average Skylord doesn't see too much. What you two guys are working on, and I'm quite fascinated with. Not only hyped with future possibility, but it's a very very interesting topic to work on these core parts of the systems.
Well, yeah, it's kind of nice just getting to know the game from like a more technical side of things. Because like if you just develop the game, you get a very different view angle of like how things work. Like not only for Skylords, but also for different games. For example, like after we implemented achievements, like Lada and I just started talking about how differently we see achievements in other games. Because you can elaborate a bit, Lada. I think we did it in Risk of Rain, kind of.
Yeah, I mean it's like one of those I guess big systems that I don't know, almost every game kind of has quests achievements, and well, lo and behold, now we had to implement our own, and it's kind of fun to make and implement this feature and think about it in a way you normally wouldn't as a normal player, and to implement it and kind of then relate it a bit to the quest and achievement systems in other games.
So, because you already mentioned developing, do you both care at all about the, from your point of view, lower level stuff like card balancing, or do you leave that to the designers without interrupting them?
So I kind of, there's a reason why we have the different roles and different responsibilities and priorities. I fully trust, the people that, to do the job of their role. I'm always interested in the end result, but I leave it to them to do the work, to implement, to figure it out, to design the card, or because that's also part of what we wanted at the end, to split a bit of these responsibilities. So I'm mostly, in these cases, mostly just interested in the outcome, and I trust that the people that work on it, do so with the best intent.
Yeah. Like for me, there's like two perspectives here. There's like the technical perspective for how it is implemented, and like also the design perspective. So in terms of the design perspective, I honestly don't really care that much because like I'm not that invested in like the game personally. So like I'm not really upset if anything gets nerfed or anything, right? like obviously I want to like have like a cool game where like things kind of are balanced, so you can just play different deck archetypes and just enjoy the game. But let's say, for example, in the news, if you have the Harvester again, I like just frequently joke with like the PvP faction designers about just nerfing Harvester and removing Siege. And as you can see here, the Harvester also has the Siege removed. And this is like, just some things I just joke about with them, right? And personally, I just play PvP and I play pure Shadow and PvP. So like the Harvester nerf would be something that personally affects me. But since I don't really play, it's like not something I care about. I only really step in there if like some sort of discussion would block progress for like a patch, right? So let's say, for example, like we kind of have a patch we need to roll out and the final numbers for a card are not clear, then I would, for example, just say that we just, let's say, follow Radical's like suggestion for numbers and then just implement that in the game.
Okay, I get it. You make a final say in case they don't work it out by themselves.
Yeah. So basically, that's what kind of happened for Soulstone, that we were not too sure about the final numbers, like on the day of the patch. So I kind of just went with the ones Radical gave us.
Yeah.
Because like I'm also somewhat still involved with the card implementation aspect. So I'm kind of the OG card implementer because like I was like the first person to work with my own tool on this. So I still often just get questions from my card implementers about how stuff, like what stuff is possible with the entity editor. And also sometimes like if we can add certain functionality, which is like not possible yet. And to basically add functionality, I either like add features to the tool with OutP, who also works on the entity editor, or I basically talk with Cubic to, let's say, add new possibilities to existing abilities so they can do more than they originally could. So, for example, one thing you can imagine for like an aura ability, like Forest Elder has, like we added a feature so you can check if the unit has another ability before like it gets the effect of the aura ability actually. So like this sort of like just if check, if has ability, only then grant this ability, or if not has ability, only then grant ability.
Yeah,
that was added to the aura, and for that, I kind of just spent 3 days no-lifing on the aura ability and just reverse engineering that. And yeah, that was like fun. It was pretty, was kind of difficult, but in the end, it kind of worked. So
that's a very weird definition of fun. I heard this like sarcasm.
I don't know, it was fun. Like I wouldn't do it otherwise, right? So the reverse engineering part is one of the more fun things in the game.
When I wanted to change a map for the CCC at some point, I was sent to you, Hannah, quite quickly. And to both of you, how much time do you have to spend on such minor requests and daily messages? How much time does that take apart from your
I have
day?
a question quickly. Like, why did they send you very instantly to me? That seems weird. Like, did they not try to send
because they said Hannah can help.
Okay. So what was it again of the CCC? I actually don't remember really.
It was something like I wanted to get the campaign map working as a custom map, something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. Stuff like that honestly happens frequently, and it can honestly easily take away from priorities, right? Because like if I get this sort of request, I assume that probably the person, like if they specifically were sent to me, they already tried other things and it didn't work for them. So here they are. And then the question is, okay, does like dealing with this now take less effort than writing it down and dealing with it later?
Yeah.
And then it can be a distraction for sure, right? And sometimes, like when you're in this mode of like helping someone with one thing, they kind of see it as an invitation to just say, "Oh, by the way, since I have you here, can you also quickly have a look at this?" And then it can kind of take away from what is the actual priority and what would actually be the most beneficial for the game, and slow down the features which are actually critical.
Yeah, but
assuming I would work on
the
them.
real question was, do you get a lot of those messages? Or is that something that turns up every 2 or 3 days? Or do you get bombarded by requests?
I think that varies around patch times, right? Like if I'm like super active around like a patch date, I can easily end up with messages from like 10 to 15 people per day. But like, let's say today, I didn't really get that many messages from different people. And yeah, it kind of like correlates with my personal activity in the project. If I work on a lot of things, I get a lot of messages. When I'm just, chilling after patch a bit, I don't get that many messages.
How about you, Lada?
Yeah, I think about the same. I get less requests than Hannah in that regard. And usually, I think one of the the more frequent requests is if I can create a certain scratch code, because it's actually really creating a scratch code. The steps involved are actually really simple, but there's not yet been like a tool written for it, or like a nice interface. So I kind of need to dig in the database to create a scratch code. But I'd say as of lately, those are the biggest requests I get, and yeah. Aside from that, I'm a little more behind the scenes, so I don't get too much sent my way. It's or at least some things that could be sent my way are likely more sent Hannah's way.
And I got the same question again, but for administrative duties, like making decisions. How much time does that take up?
Well, for the most part, like we have members like Majora and Wind Thunder, but that also take a lot of a lot of the responsibilities with making decisions, with coordinating patches and all of that stuff. Where sometimes we kind of hook in is if some of these changes touch a bit on the legal side of things. So let's say marketing or can we do this or not? Can we use this asset in this feature in this video or not? Those are some questions we sometimes get. And yeah, in terms of administrative things, for example, moderations with GDPR requests to delete someone's account. That's something that Hannah and I still do, because there's still not a nice interface for this yet. But speaking of that, our web developers are working on something for that. But it's for administrative tasks. There a lot of those are things that could not come our way if we had the tools in place to give someone else the chance to do them. But I'd say in general the administrative tasks are less than the tasks discussed previously.
Yeah, like I'm not sure if it's an administrative task, but like we basically also coordinate the like patches for the most part, right? So like when a patch is coming out, we are usually the ones to take care of the deployment. We also have then people like Lebovine and let's say Hodron join us and Old, and then we just make sure that the actual patch, which kind of has been contributed towards by like all these different departments, actually gets out like in a nice presentable manner.
Yeah.
And another thing is also just about like people who apply, right? So we are kind of also the HR team for like Skylords Reborn. So
true.
most applications also go through us, right? So if someone applies, then most of the time they end up in a chat with us, and we just talk for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, see if someone can basically just integrate well in a team and contribute in a way that does not really affect any sort of priorities which are being worked on, right?
Yeah.
Because like in the past, like one of the biggest issues was often that just we are not working on the things that we should be working on, right? We are not working towards the features, like on the features which are like the most beneficial for the game. And yeah, that can definitely that's something we actively should try to avoid, right? Because
Yeah.
any time not spent working on that is just time which the game might suffer at because it loses players because there's no new content, right? Or no new critical features like map modifiers which create replayable content.
Yeah.
Oh, I just want to say that for the non-administrative tasks, sometimes there's a lot of questions sent our way. Is X possible? Kind of.
Yeah.
So we want to add a new map. Well, adding a new map is more than just adding a new map. It's also as in adding the file of the map to the game. It's also like, okay, how can we make sure that it shows in game, like on the world map? How does the storybook work? Like, how can you attach a certain story to a map that shows in the UI? So sometimes like these small, sometimes small, sometimes big, explorative tasks to figure out if something is possible. Which comes up quite often, I'd say, with with new cards and new maps as we introduce them.
Yeah. Sometimes it's also a thing that it's basically that things you think things are possible, but then it's not possible. So it can then either be cancelled or we try to make it happen, and which then again kind of shifts around priorities because that's just more work coming our way. So that's always something we have to balance as well.
I mean, when you're talking, I can hear that it's kind of complicated to coordinate such a huge volunteer team.
Yeah, it is, because it's difficult on a lot of levels. I mean, first of all, the consistency is sometimes challenging. Everyone's doing it in their free time, so you really cannot set too many expectations on when someone works on something. Then you also have the difficulties of you have roles that define people's responsibilities, but where it gets kind of tricky is in the areas where the roles kind of meet in the boundaries between the roles. Because that's then areas where Hannah and I have spent time figuring out how certain things work, but there's still no official tools to add them yet, or change certain things yet. So then it becomes kind of Hannah or Lada, can you look into it? And that's again one of the things that we're slowly trying to improve. Actually, documenting these things, making tools for those things.
Oh no.
And just and then not necessarily because it's a volunteer project, but just there's a lot involved into creating a card, into creating a map. And I remember this from Majora's interview with you. There you went on with him on the entire process needed to make a card added to the game.
The famous wheel of choose tanks.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot involved, and you're gonna just try to do the best with what you've got, and yeah. It's
speaking. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Go ahead.
Speaking of Majora, that was already the next question, and it ties pretty neatly into all your duties. I wrote down, beside him being a super cool guy, why did you bring Majora into the project lead?
I mean, that's clear, right? Because he's a super cool guy.
And he's Dutch.
Yeah, and he's Dutch. No, but he started out as a community manager, right? That's what he initially applied for, and then he started doing these awesome community updates, right? And in terms of these community updates, where does he get his information from? Well, us, I guess, right? Because we were already kind of doing the coordination, and we had the overview of the different, all the different departments and how they work together towards making a patch happen. So we also had the overview of when something happens. So in that sense, we worked quite closely together for the community updates, and in those community updates, we also initially even did the proofreading, right? And that's something you took over by now, which is very greatly appreciated. But basically, like the community updates are one thing, but they didn't, take an infinite amount of time, and Majora had like the motivation and interest to also take care of other things. And since he was working with us quite closely already, like we weren't necessarily opposed to that, right? Because like he obviously like is not incompetent, like he knows how this stuff works. He has experience in the gaming industry, and like he has time and motivation to help, and that honestly was kind of a no-brainer that he also can partake in the project lead then. And the areas where he helps us the most right now is mostly the non-technical stuff. So he helps with the coordination on the, let's say, event side, audio, on the community updates, on the, like lots of different things. Also with the coordination on the art department, also talking to Wind Hunter about coordinating the game design features and the card implementation features. One thing Lada and I are still mostly just required is the area of like the technical aspects, because both Wind Hunter and Majora here kind of struggle to have that link between like the technical part and like basically the game design part and like all the other areas. So we act as like kind of a bridge element there to help facilitate the communication between like development aspects and like the other aspects of the project in a better way.
Yeah.
And how do you guys organize yourself internally now? Do you have a secret chat where you take votes, or how do you do? So what is the Lada, Majora, Hana relationship is like? You discuss stuff and then you decide, and if you don't agree on something, what happens then?
I mean, so far we haven't had the issue that we disagree really on stuff. Like, for the most part, it's pretty logical most of the time how you just work with stuff. Like, we don't really have that many difficult decisions in terms of like what needs to happen. So most of the stuff we mostly blocked by people not having time or something, right? And in that sense, we work together in a pretty chill manner, I'd say, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, we have some irregular meetings together. Like, for example, like Majora and I basically meet every single time to prepare like a staff meeting, so to say. Like, so basically, the idea is that like every 3 weeks we do like a staff meeting, which is kind of like a sprint meeting in a software company to just plan patch progress and see where we're at currently and when we can make a patch happen, what would the patch look like, and so on. That's like one thing we kind of had on pause during the summer, because like if half of these meetings were like, oh, Hana doesn't have enough time to contribute in these like important areas, then it's difficult, to actually plan towards a patch. But we're now getting back into that mode of just having these regular meetings. But yeah, like in that sense, we have these meetings with Majora. Sometimes we also just text with Majora about stuff when it happens, and basically I guess we complement each other in a very nice way there.
Yeah, it seems pretty chill from the outside.
Yeah, and if anything, Majora as a project coordinator kind of hooks into our like more technical knowledge and relationship with the developers in order to figure out if certain patches are possible in a realistic in a timely manner. But yeah, in general, the teamwork is really great. I mean, that's also one of the reasons we went with him, right? So really happy how that has rolled out, to be honest.
Yeah, like since you mentioned secret group chats, like the thing is, I think Lada and I have so many group chats because like we do so much communication just in all these different group chats. It's kind of crazy actually. Like we have a group chat with the 3 of us, we have a group chat also with Wind Hunter, we have group chats with Dutchy for the moderation parts, we have group chats for every applicant that applies to the project, here's a group chat with something level we needed help for the wiki. There's a special effects editor squad group chat. Map designers technical questions group chat.
Yeah,
There's
the
lots of
group
them.
the group chats are the scourge of real work, aren't they?
Yeah. But I like that. It makes it. I mean, it kind of makes information like less centralized, but it's kind of nice just to talk to people in like a small circle and quickly figure out stuff. Because like if you always discuss things in bigger circles, then it can be hard to actually discuss the things you want to discuss because everyone kind of wants to add their opinion, and then things can easily kind of just derail.
Yeah, like the art channel,
Yeah, exactly.
which derails regularly. I mean, from the outset, it always seems like you're pretty nicely set up. I feel like it's you're pretty shielding the outside world from any potential drama.
Yeah, there's drama happening rather like not so frequently. Like there's regular some sort of drama happening, and that's one end, right? But nothing too crazy, really. Like it's mostly just minor stuff.
Yeah.
But for example, yeah, like personally, like if I don't know, like I personally don't have issues of like conflict resolution usually. Like if I get into conflict with someone, we can just talk it out, right? So
What is it like to represent the whole project? Like right now on the stream, everybody knows. Besides Majora not being here, you are the big bosses, and you also take the lead on the. You three take the lead on the anniversary stream. So what does it feel like to be in such a position?
One of the things that that's also, you know, before the stream, Anna and I kind of just went over a bit and just synced up with how you know what we want to say to some of the questions, and just one of the things I kind of think about sometimes is just the things you say or not or don't say. Mostly being careful with the words you choose, because I mean, now it's a little less than before, but you know, things can be taken out of context or not interpreted like how you expected them to. And I feel like as someone who is, you know, in a higher position, they need to be more mindful of that. And in general, for things like streams or videos or kind of the public facing parts, I'm really not that much of a people's person. I mean, there's a reason I'm a programmer, right? In real life and as a hobby. So you know, in the end, even a stream like this or an anniversary stream or anything like that, um, it's something I've kind of gotten comfortable or used to doing, right? But it's not something I necessarily like intrinsically look forward to or necessarily enjoy. But even now, like after a stream or after anything happens, I was, you know, look back on it. I think it's fun, but especially for like the public facing parts. You know, if it wasn't needed, I wouldn't mind not doing it.
I understand. Anna?
yeah, like honestly, it's pretty stressful. Like I think most people just can spend the evenings after work chilling. Like at the moment, I don't really chill that much after work, which you know is not ideal, and I don't think it's also like too healthy. But yeah, like this is partially the stressful part, especially like around like deadlines or patches, where I just kind of spent arguably too much time on the project. And the other thing is that it can be like very difficult to just coordinate between like the boundaries of different departments, right? Like we mentioned this before, but let's say like you have like a card, like like a card, right? And it needs all these different departments to make sure that it's complete. It needs the effects, it needs the artwork, it needs the card implementation, it needs the descriptions, and so on. And for example, for the cards, it might happen that we forget like one small thing about the effects, right? And this is like one of the things that gets easily lost in just sort of like the coordination work, that you obviously try to plan it from like get-go to just check, okay, I need this for this card, but in the end, maybe you're missing one certain effect for when the card dies, right? There's like certain stuff which only becomes obvious when you actually test out the card. And pulling like all of this together into like a patch and like fixing out these things and basically making sure it looks neat and packaged adds to that stressful experience as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's also like a small thing with time zones, which kind of can make meetings a bit annoying to organize, because let's say one person is in the US time zone and maybe one person is in the, let's say, Asian time zone. Then that can be a bit more difficult to deal with.
So we are powering hardcore through the question, but I think now it's time for a short break. How much time? How much time do you need? I need 5 minutes. Do you need more?
I need 5 minutes as well. Sounds good. I guess you meet at Lada.
I'm fine with 5 minutes.
Yeah.
All right, then I put 7 into my. At worst case, in 7 we are back, but I try 5.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, then we are back soon. So I'm back already. Let's see.
I'm here.
I'm also not here.
Alrighty.
Not here. Oh,
Okay, so
You guys are ready for the hardest question of the whole stream?
I was born ready.
The hardest question, in my opinion, that's my opinion. The hardest question I got is, how do you deal with motivation after so many years? It must be a problem, right?
Right. I guess I can start with this. Yeah. Where do I start?
just say yes, Lada. It's fine.
I mean, it's. I guess I can start with it is a problem. It kind of starts as an innocent. Oh, let me tweak a little thing of BattleForge, and then before you know it, you're project admins, and there's a lot involved in this journey and in this role, and there's a lot of things that can motivate you, but also a lot of things that can demotivate you. I guess I can elaborate a bit maybe on the things that demotivate me personally. I think one of the things that I always find a bit, one of the things I like about the project is the fact that you're working on something and it doesn't end up in a drawer somewhere. It's actually like a bit of a hobby project that players get to actually enjoy, and that they get to they get to see the content that you've made. And what I always find a bit sad is the fact that no, it's not our property. And things that we are or aren't allowed to do is not always clear. So you always need to play on the safer side on what you can and can't do. And basically the TLDR of this is kind of, it becomes challenging to dream big because there's just a lot of limitations in place, but you sometimes do not even know where those limitations are set. So you just have to play overly, defensive in order to protect the project that you've set in place. And that kind of is something that sometimes demotivates me a bit because. But then again, the other side of the coin is that you get to end up working on something that the players do get to enjoy. Then the sad part of it is that if you could put this on Steam or if you could put it on, do some certain things with it, so many more players could enjoy it. That's one of the things that sometimes just demotivates me. And this also ties a bit into just the amount of work you put into the project. It takes, we're like 40, 50 by now. There's a lot of people involved. And it takes a lot of time to get people, integrated, get them going, and it takes also a lot of time to find the right people, and to invest the time in the right people. But it's kind of really easy for the people to leave, and what I personally find demotivating and I wouldn't say exhausting, but it sometimes can feel like it is when you invest time in people and just in certain in things, and then that those things disappear, the people go away, for whatever reason, life, they get a different job, become more busy, there are numerous reasons why they suddenly have less time, but then you kind of need to do that process again, and again and again and again. And it's we Hannah and I have took a lot of steps into kind of making this as easy as possible, to a point where we're just like, okay, you want to become a client developer? Okay, here you can start reading here. It'll tell you, you know, how you can get started and start contributing. And but there's still a lot that's you know, answering questions, sharing knowledge. There's still a lot that needs to be transferred, and it's just a bit demotivating once those things go away, and you kind of need to do it all over again, because then it feels like you spent a lot of time and didn't get anywhere, even though it's not really that case sometimes, but it can feel like that. And I think before I give Hannah the microphone, I think another thing is just that there's expectations with the work you do. You know, it starts instantly in the beginning with, oh, I just want to add this feature, or just you know, want to work on this a bit. But before you know it, there are people dependent on your work. There's you know, expectations of the work you output, and it doesn't become this, oh, let me just have a little bit of fun figuring out how this works or implementing that, because you know, adding a card to the game is relatively easy, if I say, but then like making it actually, you know, playable for someone, like make it actually something that's releasable, that's like a whole different beast. And there's a lot of like attention to detail, and just, there's a lot of checking, a lot of steps that need to happen to make sure that you kind of go from that 90% to the 100. And yeah, that's that sometimes can because it requires a lot of energy, can kind of drain you a bit. And yeah, that's something I think it's kind of challenging sometimes. Yeah, I think that's a bit of a TLDR for me.
No. That's exactly what can make people feel a bit how it's like to be in your shoes.
Yeah. And I'd say I get really excited when we receive an application for some role, and I'm like, heck yeah, this, you know, this is gonna get somewhere. And because this is like someone where I think, yeah, okay, he's here to stick, he knows what he's talking about, we can get somewhere. Because you're not, you know, you also can't be picky with really picky, because you know, the more picky you are, the less people you're gonna have to help the project, and you know, then the project's just gonna die because there's no one there to help. But the lower you set certain standards, the more energy and time you need to invest in order to get, you know, certain people into a level where, you know, they're properly integrated and can start producing content that's releasable.
Yeah, like a lot of the things that are said kind of boil down to a lot of just boring and repetitive work, which is still necessary, right? So stuff like doing like that last 10% on like a, let's say, card, and just making sure it's really completely finished and you thought of all the single effects that needs to go into it, takes a lot of time, is boring because you just play out this thing in the forge and look for every single minor detail, but it's necessary, right? So one thing you kind of have to deal with as like in our positions at the moment is just like a lot of sort of boring tasks, which kind of we are expected to do, right? Like we have to do basically all the applications for people. We have to basically do the like reviews for the let's say features, and yeah, and a lot of that work is just like not exactly fun, right? But it has to be done. For example, also like deletion requests for accounts or any sort of like moderation issue which is not yet implemented in our moderation tool where we need to manually do stuff in a database. And I feel like those parts just take away from the things you actually enjoy doing within the project, right? And the other thing is you could try to, get more people to do these sorts of tasks. But after all, people are here in the project because it's kind of the hobby, right? And they just enjoy it. So there's often kind of a reluctance to take the initiative on like these sorts of boring tasks. Let's say, for example, for the card implementation side, descriptions are a huge issue, right? Because like people don't really want to put the effort into all the descriptions because they just want to focus on the fun aspect of just implementing the card. The other thing is also they don't want to review each other for the card implementation because they just have to check the lines of code again so everything is correct. So there's like a lot of like not fun but necessary work in the project to help it move forward, and getting people to actually work on that can be like a bit challenging sometimes. For example, like for the descriptions I mentioned, that's something, for example, Wind Hunter now like takes care of a lot, so that the card implementers don't have to deal with that side of like the motivation. But again, then this takes away like some of his other like attention he could do, like some of his time which he could do for other things. Because like time is the other thing which is kind of critical. Like the older we get and the more responsibilities we get, because now we're responsible adults, the more time we have to spend on just, figuring out those personal aspects of our lives. And yeah, we're not really young students anymore who have like infinite time and can just basically stay up until 3 a.m. working on this game.
Are you calling me old?
I agree. I agree with everything except the line that we try to be as responsible adults.
No, we don't. Oh.
We try to look like it's responsible adults. Or we'd like to fool ourselves that we are responsible adults now.
I mean, we're trying, right? Fake it till you make it.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is that we already hit on the I'm not a student anymore thing.
Well, technically speaking, I am a student, but yeah. I'm just not a young student.
I mean, you're not a student anymore when you're working on your PhD, right?
Well, I'm a PhD student.
That's how they call it now.
I'm a working student. I just...
Better working student than working poor.
That's fair.
Yeah, but I can hear that what I was thinking in my mind all the time is that I think there are too many people that think you get all the cool work, but it sounds like now at the moment that you are in the position where you get loads of shit work.
Yeah, kinda.
Yeah, there's a lot of work that, I mean, Hannah said that needs to happen, but like people are here to kind of, as their hobby, as an extra, thing that they do likely after work or something in the night, like, they don't want to do the boring stuff then. Like, why would they, right? I mean, understandably so, but it needs to be done. And, well, those are things that Hannah and I and, Majora and other people also certain, do. Yeah. I was gonna say something, but I forgot as I was telling this line. I don't remember.
But it almost sounds like you're shielding other people, that they can be developers or designers that are fun, and you are the shit developers and designers.
No, not necessarily. There's a part of it has also to do with like the what we mentioned. There's like
there's also like stuff only we can do, right? Like there's like, for example, database access. Like we don't randomly give out full database access to like all staff members, right? Because that's sensitive information which should be handled responsibly. So if there's like some very technical things we need to do for moderators because they're dealing with some complex ban situation, then that kind of requires our help, right? And the other thing is, when possible, we also try to like let other people handle applications, but for, let's say, a lot of just the HR work, we're kind of just the go-to person to then send the people to the other departments in the first place. So
Yeah. So
like there's just a lot of responsibilities. Yeah, but yeah, Lada, sorry.
Oh yeah, no, we try to if we think it's realistically possible to hand over a certain task, then we discuss it with the people that we try to hand over the task with, a task to, and we end up doing that. But where the issue is in the boundary between the roles, and where it's not really certain who needs to do it, and also because it usually is something that's difficult for either of the two roles to do, and it releases something that one of us needs to do, and of course, as Anna mentioned, just the work that should arguably only be done by us in cases of getting access to the database. We don't want to do that too easily. That's like you need to build up some trust first, and even then, we try to look for alternatives.
We kind of keep permission to what's necessary.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the. Sometimes I almost wish just like a developer, not a project lead, because then you can more like where you work on tasks where there's no necessarily expectation for it, but it has a lot of potential. Let's say the match modifiers. You kind of just play around with it a bit, try to get it to work, and once it's done, it's done. And that's kind of it. Kind of working on the DRS, what's the 3D models. You just work on it on the side. Once it's done, it's done. And that's that. But there's a lot of things that distract you from that, and you end up just doing the admin work that someone needs to do, but kind of no one really wants to do or can do. Because there are people who are willing to take over the task, but we simply cannot give them it because we don't have the tools in place to allow them to take it over. One of the things being, for example, the GDPR, like account deletion. We don't have an interface in place to allow, for example, our lead moderator Dutchy to do this. So we end up receiving requests for that and doing it ourselves.
So you made it through the hardest question, so I'd like to propose some easier ones. I have some quick questions that should be pretty easy. The first is, are there any hidden Easter eggs in Skylords Reborn that are not yet found? Yes, no question.
But added by Skylords Reborn or already part of BattleForge?
No, added by Skylords Reborn.
So like as a specific thing for players to discover?
Yes.
We had ideas for this, definitely.
Yeah, like I'd say we are more of a team which just announces literally every change, and there is stuff in the patch. Like if it's not in the patch notes and you found the Easter egg, it's like not an Easter egg, it's an undocumented feature.
Yeah. So I think the short answer is no. We haven't purposely added an Easter egg, as far as I'm aware, where we're like, oh yeah, let's see if we find this.
Yeah, I mean, we added a Brawler Bunny, so...
Yeah, the Brawler Bunny is nice.
Yeah.
So the next one is, would it be technically possible to make a Skylords Reborn 12-player map?
Yes.
Yeah, actually, we've also have like experimented with like 6 or 8-player PvP map. Was it?
That's also possible, but yeah, then the risk of these things kind of goes up, though, right?
Yeah, but
I mean, there's also 3 versus 3.
Yeah. But the answer is yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Although, like to add on that, like from a design perspective, like I think I can leak. We're not working on any 4-player maps at the moment. So you can imagine that like before any 12 players are ever considered, we would also just work on 4-player maps, and 12 players are just effectively 3 4-player maps. So in terms of content, I think you can think that, okay, maybe it's just more worth it to just work on 3 separate 4-player maps and just use that as content. Because like that's just entire storyline there, right?
Yeah, true. So the next question is, I stay with the easier ones now. If we would have a player influx like in the Hand of Blood time, would that cause any difficulties, or can the servers handle that now forever?
I guess the direct answer is no, can likely not handle it. Slightly more elaborate answer is we have like this documented the process on how to set up the server, so we can scale up without too much effort, but it's not something that happens automatically.
Yeah, and that's like from the hardware side, right? From the software side, back in the original release, we had quite a few like just crashes where we weren't too sure initially where it was crashing because we are working with C++ there, and C++ is kind of prone to just basically crashing with like an error, which is just not decipherable and like not really useful. Because like you have to imagine, like this project was basically built by students, like from the ground up. So this wasn't really a sort of software company which kind of went there to like build a proper project with like lots of nice, a nice base foundation under it, where it can build without any bugs or issues. But instead, we have like just kind of no life the what's it called? Basically the server software, in the hopes that will probably work. We will fix bugs as they come along. And that has been kind of an issue in the past, right? The server has had random crashes. These days, the server doesn't really randomly crash anymore. But there are obviously bugs which could occur at higher player numbers, which are not occurring right now.
Yeah.
Alrighty. And now we come to the last parts, which are now we go a little harder again. This was the quick this was the quick fire easy round. And now I go into where do you see the project in 5 or 10 years?
It's just like a job interview question.
Yeah.
Okay. For that one, are you familiar with the term bus factor or truck factor?
No.
Okay, so like in software development, that basically is a number which kind of describes how many people can be driven over by a bus before the project kind of fails, or like is like basically at risk of failing. So it's kind of like a risk descriptor, a number of persons. And at the moment, like for Skylords Reborn, that number is basically 2, right? So like if 2 people from like the critical people drop out, the project is like in a very bad state. So let's say, for example, Lada and I drop out. That's very bad, right? Let's say Wind Hunter Majora drops out. That's also very bad, right? So the goal kind of in the next 5 to 10 years is to get that number down to like a point where it's like not a critical problem if like one or 2 of these people would eventually want to quit the project. And to work towards that, one thing we are trying to do is basically create content or like features which kind of create new content automatically. So basically renewable content, like for example match modifiers, or for example daily quests, or let's say other spin-off projects which are like daily quests but like more specific. The other thing is also like from the financial perspective, because currently we're still just using the Patreon funds to pay for all of the expenses, but I can see that in, let's say, 10 years, the Patreon funds might have run out from that time, right? And that leaves the question of how the project will get financed. But that's something future me will deal with. That's not a problem for now.
Okay. And where do you think the project... So if I got it right, it would be ideal if the team gets set up in a way that if you both die in a Lambo crash, it's not that bad.
Exactly. So like,
and that the game itself is appealing enough that new volunteers come in.
I mean that as well, right? But like also in a sense that it like players stay, right? Because like you lose players if there's like just nothing interesting anymore. But like if you have a game which kind of, you know, runs itself in terms of like, let's say events or like cool fun features to look at, that's kind of the cool dream state to be in, right? Let's say, I mean, one thing you have is, let's say, randomness, right? Randomness makes the game replayable. That's why rPvE is so popular. That's what makes rPvE different from the campaign maps. And like just adding more like of these axes of randomness is like something we're kind of trying to do. Like, not sure if you remember his name, but Imaginary Number like was very like a big fan of this, and he was also very inspired by Path of Exile there because they also talk about this like sort of making stuff more replayable by adding different axes of randomness, and that's also something we would ideally like to go for. At least in the long term. Just replayability within the game.
Yeah. Like, I guess an example is also the PvP happy hours. Just something that you set up, it kind of regulates itself, and you just need to, you know, occasionally tweak a few settings, perhaps. Setting up those features is sometimes a little challenging design-wise, but from a perspective of like self-sustainability in terms of like players being able to generate their own fun is kind of it's more up there. I mean I really like those systems because you kind of do an initial amount of work, set it up, and then afterwards it just, you know, it's there. You set up the match modifiers, you make a few of them, and you know, maybe players can mix and match and use them however they want.
Yeah. The other thing with these modifiers is they also like funnel the player base towards like a certain map, or like the happy hour, they funnel the player base towards a certain time where they play matches. So like the game can more easily compensate for like low player numbers. So ideally we have like also a stable player base which can just, you know, have like a multiplayer game to play with.
Yeah, what we indirectly spoiled, and I'd like to spell it out now, is that the map modifiers will be shipped or combined with a map of the day, map of the week, or whatever system, right?
That would be ideal. Like that's kind of still being figured out how we exactly implement it, right? The feature is still in the early stages, so you can't really expect this for like this year. But in 2024, we will like work out the exact map modifier specifications and hopefully also ship it in that year.
Do you guys know about? Yeah, please.
Yeah, like it's not a feature which we concretely start implementing yet, right? Basically, it's only been made possible to, you know, start working at this now, because like now we have the technical basis to make it happen, and now it needs to be implemented. And
yeah. I hope that some of you two guys already learned about Dreamland.
Yeah, I live there.
You lived.
Sure do.
This question is Majora's fault, and especially Hannah was named a lot in this part. Dreamland is the land where you can pick the skill set of 3 people who join the Skylords Reborn team, and you have to tell me what skill set they should have to benefit the project most. So what does the project need in terms of people?
Yeah, so like we're currently working on this Hannah cloning project, and basically it's also like still in the early stages. And yeah, so in order to clone me, like there's a lot of technical hurdles we have to face, like figuring out cloning, but since it's not feasible, like instead of like talking about specific roles or people like you would like to see, there's like a different angle you would like to explore here. Just for example, personality sort of characteristics, which we like kind of would like to see in people. So it would basically help a lot with sustainability or like initiative in the project. So the first keyword is initiative. Like we kind of need people who want to take the initiative and are willing to take the initiative to, let's just say, make good features, who make who try to say, okay, we want to add this card. Do I also need to ask anyone for effects here? Or, oh, my descriptions are not there yet, I will take care of it instead of asking someone else to do it. So just someone who's kind of responsible and takes the initiative to just fix stuff rather than just hoping someone else does it. The second thing was that ideally someone has time and willingness to learn as well, right? Because I think we're a bit different from a usual company in that sense, how we work together and how the technical requirements we basically face. So people kind of have to learn how they can work in this project to make meaningful contributions, and that takes time and also motivation, and it cannot be understated how long it kind of takes to get there, because Lada and I have been at it for 7 years, right? So I think you can expect anyone who would ever sort of replace our roles, for example, would at least need to be with the project for 1 or 2 years at the very least, or even 2 to 3 years. And the last one is also kind of a bit of perfectionism with, let's say, cards or features, because a lot of the effort just goes into these last 10%, which Lada mentioned, right? And in those last 10%, you just have so much extra work you have to put in. It's almost as much as the first 90% of the feature, because you have to really thoroughly check, is everything correctly implemented? Is nothing missing? Is nothing broken? Did they not really forget this effect in this card? And so on. So having a sort of let's say, healthy perfectionism can be quite beneficial in that sense. Of course, it shouldn't be overly perfectionistic, where you kind of then lose sight of this sort of value and profit, value and effort trade-off. But just making stuff presentable and ready for patches is a tremendous help, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because if other people don't do it, it usually just falls onto us. Or also very frequently Levelwin, who's also very into the whole, we need to make the patch as perfect as possible. Which is very helpful though. Yeah, I'm not sure if I forgot anything, Lada, which you want to add there.
No, I mean, you mentioned the three.
Yeah.
I think just someone. Yeah. I'm not sure. The getting those last 10%, and if they're working on something, instead of being oh, I don't know what to do, I'll just wait. That they proactively reach out and try to figure out, kind of take ownership of the feature and kind of really go with it and make sure that they see what it is that they're working on added all the way to the end, instead of just seeing it as oh, I'll work on this thing now. Okay, then I'll work on this thing, and then I'll work on that thing. Because that's kind of what makes certain people in our team have the roles that they have. Me, Hannah, Majora, Windhunter. We're all willing to spend that extra time and bring those features all the way through to the end. And but that a lot of the tasks involved there are tasks that aren't necessarily always fun or less fun than the main task, either that be designing a card or making the card or making a map, it's yeah. No. Oh, how did we win? Oh, I guess we won.
I killed everything. That's why we won.
That's cool. We played this game.
Yeah, so that's also with new applicants. What gets me the most excited about a new applicant is almost just for a client developer position, we have we always have small trial tasks, just hey, can you try to do this, or try making that, to see if they like the work, they are comfortable just with a bit of the code base, just a bit of to see if we can work with each other. And it's either they ask a lot of questions to show initiative, or they're almost they're they don't only implement what you said, but maybe they even add an extra thing or think about whether the feature should be a different way instead of what you specified. Just kind of taking the extra step with the work that you do. And yeah, I don't know. I get really excited when I see applicants show those types of traits because I don't know. Then you just see potential, and then it also latches a bit into the investing time into someone that you think has a lot of potential to stick and to grow.
Mm-hmm. You avoided the question nicely, but your answer was very insightful.
Yeah, thanks. That was the goal.
Yeah, no, it was a good answer. I liked it.
My first thought was, wait, what was the question again?
Yeah, please go ahead, Hannah.
Yeah, it would feel weird to just say, yeah, we need like more us, we need more Majora, we need more Wind Hunter, and I don't know, it's not really helpful, right? So
yeah, I understand,
yeah.
and it's really more explanatory to what the project needs.
Yeah, because like we also don't really believe that we need like a person with a specific skill set, sort of like we ideally need someone who just kind of is willing to put in the effort to learn, to spend time on it, and also to take responsibility within the project.
Yeah, but and it arguably becomes more challenging as time goes on because the entire player base kind of grows older, and all of the people who have this like intrinsic passion for BattleForge become older. We all start getting jobs, so like all those OG BattleForge players, the pool kind of becomes smaller and smaller. To have people that kind of have the traits and are mostly related to like having time.
That's why people need to get their kids into BattleForge early.
Yeah. so everyone watching.
By the way, the map modifier was on some parts noticeable, but now with a shaman and the werebeasts and nature, that's pretty nasty.
Yeah. I noticed it in the previous match with the Boom Brothers like boss. Like he had so much HP. Like I noticeably saw his bar also like jump up a lot.
Yeah, I think it's one of the more like subtle passive modifiers, which just makes it harder, right? It's like not an obvious boom rupture. It's just kind of, damn, why are they so tanky?
Yeah,
why do I suck?
And since you spoke of people who have a specific mindset, there is a second question that was always tied with the one I asked you. With the resources we have right now inside the team, what would be the smartest next steps for the project?
I think the thing that's is challenge. Holy all my nomads just died.
My camera was luckily on that. That spike root really trashed you hard.
Okay then. I didn't know he was that strong. But I think in general, just smart things to do, and not necessarily now, but it's kind of always. It's just to stay focused on the things that you work. Because one of the things that easily happens is, oh god, that spike root that is healing really quickly.
Yeah.
One thing that easily kind of happens is as you work on a feature, you set it up for review, right? Which means that other people look at it. But in the meantime, you're waiting, and what are you going to do in the time you're waiting? You're going to work on something else, and while you're working on something else, the previous feature you worked on might be reviewed, might not yet be reviewed, but at one point, the thing you're working on now, is ready to be reviewed again, and because. But it's kind of a good thing and a bad thing because you're adding more features, but you're also not only losing focus, but you're also kind of building up this entire backlog of things that you kind of feel the need to have to go through first, before you start working on potentially other features that should arguably go through first. And it's difficult because like it's really easy to just kind of get too passionate about what you're doing, and before you know it, you're just working on too many things. And another thing that kind of ties into that is just figuring out what features are the low-hanging fruits. What features are there that we can add that are relatively easy to add, but add a lot of value. Because yeah, I mean, I don't think I really need to explain that one. It's just the least amount of effort for the most amount of value. For example, match modifiers. Because there is already, this ever almost decreasing time people have in the project, and which I don't think we've mentioned today, but the fact that sometimes people have less time means you need to add more people, to achieve the same result. But then you have the administrative overhead and a whole lot of other challenges that you face.
Like especially like when teaching people, like it would always be quicker to just do the feature yourself, right? So this teaching process, which can sometimes go on for months, then just slows things down, and then maybe people drop out. So things like in the end, kind of like didn't really help that much for development, even though people obviously spend a lot of time, right? So like I don't want to sound ungrateful for people's time, right? But like in the end, the project didn't really progress a lot, right? If it makes sense.
It does.
Oh, my monument is under attack. But I think to give a summary of the to answer the question is focus on what matters and try to not shoot yourself in the foot by like working too hard when someone else cannot match your same energy or your same time, your same input. Work on low hanging fruits, so maximize your output for the input that you give. Work on content that kind of is renewable, that creates content for itself after you've initially set it up. So the match modifiers, the things like events, or even quests.
Or like the nature rPvE you're playing right now.
Or the nature rPvE, things that generate content for itself. And what was the fourth point? To also focus on the factor Hannah mentioned with his fancy words, the low truck number.
The bus factor or truck
the
number.
Bus factor, the truck number, so decreasing the chances that the project kind of just dies if one of the people were to just disappear. It sounds kind of sad, but make people replaceable.
No, that's not sad. That's the nature of a team.
Yeah.
But Lada, I think we should name it the Lambo factor for Skylords.
Oh, okay. The Lambo factor.
Yeah.
No, that's. I was doing some consulting work with team stuff, and one of the basic rules that was already found out in the 60s or 50s or even further than that is that a team means that the people change.
Yeah.
That's just how it is.
Yeah, definitely.
So like if like in 5 to 10 years, we can leave the project with like a good conscience, that would be pretty awesome, to be honest.
Yeah. And that's things we try to work on, focus on, like documenting knowledge, like I mentioned before, or just trying to hand over tasks and make tasks, make sure that other people can do tasks instead of only one person being able to do that. But it's a lot of efforts. There's so many smaller things that kind of need a lot of initial setup to kind of hand over a task. It's also one of the things that maybe I would have liked to see done differently, is where we spend when we released, when we went live, when there was a time where Hannah and I went, I don't know if people still know, Kiwi was a moderator back then. There was a time where pretty much, Kiwi would forward her moderation requests to us, and we would process them in the database. We would look up who was banned for what reason, and actually add banning, like all of these manual steps that we shouldn't be doing. But in order to get someone else to that, we need to set up this entire project that can have this interface with the database that can read and write, and all of that stuff. But once that initial step is done, then you can more easily extend upon it, because you've already set a baseline, a base, already put in the initial work required for this, that any feature that you would need to have. But there's so many of those small things that kind of need a bit of initial input to really get it to a stage where it can be transferred to someone else. That it just takes a lot of time and effort to get there. But we're trying to be mindful of it, and working on it as much as we can.
So, but indirectly, you said you're staying for the next 5 years at least.
I mean, possibly.
Who knows? I don't know. I don't know what happens in 5 years. I'm still quite young. Like 5 years is a lot. A lot can happen in the 5 years.
I'm not sure if I'm gonna be in Germany in 5 years, so let's see.
We're just bringing the project in a state that's just healthier for the project, and just increasing the chances it survives. Making that as high as possible.
I mean, that you said it sounds sad, but from my perspective, is setting the game up to only work while you two are alive is a stupid move.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, yeah.
I mean, we are at a point where the game works, where we're not there, but new content kind of becomes hard to put out without us, because I mentioned this before, basically Majora and also Wind Hunter, from their respective departments, they do a great job of the coordination there, but especially for the technical integration of all of these minor things, we are still sadly not replaceable. But hopefully one day.
So this is the Masters of the Forge episode where we get rid of you two, right?
That would be amazing. Anyone in the chat that wants to know our job, now's the time.
Anyone wants to be project admin?
We're paying you 50 euros if you take this burden away from us.
You guys just have to get so rich that you can pay someone to do your job.
Yeah.
No, that would be against what we can.
No, we're going for nobody's getting paid approach in the project, because
I mean,
it's all volunteer
to
work.
Get paid somehow, right?
And we also need money for our Lambo, so.
Yeah.
You mean the third or fourth Lambo?
We don't publicly disclose how many we have already.
Good. Yeah.
It's funny because we're playing rPvE 7. I'm seeing all these bosses I never meet on other occasions, like the Reincarnator, which is a tiny abyssal water, it seems. Yeah, there he comes back.
Oh, the
God.
Terra boss has a lot of HP.
Yeah, the regeneration is actually pretty hard.
Yeah, Terra is somehow the fiercest one sometimes of all enemies.
Oh, you know what's cute? The map also has a Wheel of Gift for the damage buff. So like it's a double map modifier now, technically speaking.
Oh yeah.
That's
Oh,
cute.
So we I skipped some questions because I was looking at the clock all the time. So technically we are through and we just have one last question, and that is usually anything that you guys want to talk about.
Yeah, let's see. I think you skipped one question where I did want to add something.
Yeah.
I think that was like about what we would have done differently for like looking back.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
a standard. That's a standard question, and I thought I skipped it because it was on all other streams. But if you wanna elaborate, I'm very interested.
Yeah, so like one thing we would honestly love to change now is just postpone release. Because like back then like release only kind of happened because like it was this vision of like we want to get the game out in a state which is as close to the original as possible, and we just slap a simple BattleForge point earn system on top of it and call it a day, right? But if you like think about it in terms of like a long-term perspective, that is not really feasible, right? Because like the game kind of needs to sustain itself with like some smart game design systems to make the game enjoyable in the long term, not just the short term. So I honestly think that the way we had the game released, it did not fulfill those criteria, right? It was nice to get started, but like it was like very easy to just quickly drop out and lose interest.
Mm-hmm.
And just giving us more time to design like a better experience there would have been pretty neat.
But wouldn't there be the danger of staying forever in early access?
I mean, not. I guess it is danger, right? But like on the other hand, it would have felt better to actually plan towards a release where you feel, like okay, we know this is the path forward. We know we don't have to deal with moderation requests for like the entire month of the first release, and could actually just focus on fixing bugs and stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe a bit more of a bit more of the. I always use the analogy of having a train riding on rails, and you're already like the train already is moving forward while you're still setting the rails, and just maybe I think thinking more of okay, we're in this pre-release state. Once we release, what's gonna change? Like how are the dynamics going to change? Obviously, moderation is going to increase because there's suddenly an entire extra environment, I guess you could say, where you need to moderate, and there's suddenly in-game banning, extra reporting, all of that stuff that you need to handle, and it's kind of when you're releasing and you don't want to ask the developer, hey, can you please handle this report after that? You want to look at how the game's doing and make sure it's from a technical point of view in a good state. And I feel like maybe we could have analyzed or thought of scenarios better that could have occurred and prepare for those accordingly, which could involve being like, okay, maybe we should release later or whatever, and and yeah, there's the danger. Yeah, you never release, but
Yeah,
that's that. My only answer to that's kind of you kind of just need to be disciplined and like just properly set up your goals and thresholds and metrics or whatever you want to, and just work towards that goal. And once that goal's reached, you go. If you just kind of don't have those things in place, then you don't really know what it is that you're working towards. So you're just gonna endlessly move forward, but then not release.
Yeah, and the thing is also like by the time we became like project leads, this whole plan of like we released the game on like mid-December, that was already set in motion. So going back on that promise also would have been non-ideal, right? But we basically also were like the lead developers, so we had to both figure out, okay, how the hell do we even make a server work, and also like how can we even get this up and running. And stuff like moderation just wasn't our focus at that time. Like we planned a bit for it because we added also like 4 Discord moderators before like release came out, but it didn't really prepare us for the wave of like new players that came, especially with Hand of Blood.
Yeah, Hand of Blood played a huge role in the overwhelming of some systems, I guess.
Yeah, but it was an awesome experience, to be honest. Like it showed us a lot of technical problems we didn't necessarily know we had. It's kind of made BattleForge a better product in terms of software and just stability, because we knew some, kind of the bottlenecks where it would fail. And I don't know. I think it'd be kind of exciting if something like that happened again. Not the crashing, but more of the this wave of players and then hopefully in this case seeing that the server is a lot better capable of handling them, not in terms of population, in terms of number of players, because like we said, that's also likely less than then, because we've also since then kind of downgraded to a less stronger machine, because just a cost saving measure. There are less players, so we don't need as strong of a machine, but in terms of just how the stability of the server, it has improved a lot, and I don't know. I think it'd be fun to kind of give like give that a second chance, kind of give it another go, a wave of players.
Yeah, it's also like in terms of like how long players stick around, right? Like if the game has better content to offer with replayability, players might stick around longer. So that was the other thing we had to consider. Retention. So like we had basically a big hype of players which came, and then just as fast as they came, they also just left again.
Yeah.
And that could have been a lot better, handled if we had more time to prepare for that adequately. Because like we had a big hype wave, which we didn't end up converting into like long-lasting player-based improvements.
Yeah.
Another small tricky thing was also like card balancing, because we promised not to do that before release, like by the old project leads. So that also added a bit pressure to release faster for PvP.
By the way, I don't know if you follow the chat, but I didn't for a second. And while we are talking about the long-term health, there are already 2 players considering committing their firstborn sons to the project as new project lead.
That's perfect. Like, so, like, where can we pick them up? Like, can you just send us an email?
Can you mail them to us as they're young? Also cheaper delivery costs.
Yes.
I don't think that is very appropriate while they are underage to mail them around.
I mean, sure. I guess not. God,
damn it.
Ethics makes always everything so complicated.
Always those laws.
Yeah. Laws are meant to be broken. I didn't say it officially, that was just a joke. But
yeah, it's just on record now.
That's how we joined the team, right?
Yeah. Like we just basically became developers by breaking the rules and cheating, and then we kind of became admins because COVID kind of forced us to stay at home and made us find new hobbies.
Well, we will save that as a future clip.
Oh no, shit.
Any more comments from you guys? Otherwise, I would wrap it up.
I don't think so. Lada, do you have anything?
No, except match modifiers are awesome, and we need that ASAP.
Yeah, I agree.
That's I think it.
So, this was the 7th installation of this series. I hope people will find it interesting. My next guest will be Maze, web developer and SMJ god. who will join me about 2 weeks from now on the 2nd of December. And a very heartfelt thanks to you both, Zyna and Ladadoos, or Hannah and Ladadoos. And I hope it was somewhat enjoyable to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
And it falls upon you guys to sign us out.
Okay, well done. See you in the Forge, fellow Skylords.
We screwed it up. I was supposed to say the fellow Skylords part.
we try it again so we can clip it. We can clip
Okay,
it.
sure. See you in the Forge. No.
Let's. I count down from 3. 3, 2, 1.
See you in the Forge, fellow Skylords. No. Okay, again. Lada, I will start. See you in the Forge,
fellow Skylords.
Ich habe